For 3 months, Prince Samuel had screamed day and night. 13 wet nurses, 8 healers, and 27 servants had failed to soothe him. Then the Alpha King fixed his cold eyes on me, the wolfless servant everyone considered expendable. "Make him stop crying," he ordered, "or leave this palace the way the last failure did." At the nursery door, he gave me one final warning. "My son is unusual. Don't be alarmed by what you see." Then he left me alone with the screaming heir. Chapter 1. People say a mother's love is the most natural thing in the world. They say it appears instantly and without condition the moment a woman holds her child. Fairy tales make it sound even simpler. They tell us maternal instinct lives inside a woman's bones, an ancient kind of magic that awakens when her baby needs her, and somehow turns her into exactly the person that child requires. But when you are the woman who cannot give a child what everyone else seems able to provide so easily, you learn something much crueler. Sometimes, you are the broken part inside a perfect machine. Sometimes, you begin to believe you were never meant to be a mother at all. I learned that lesson twice. The first time, I was 19 years old, sitting in a healer's chamber while an elderly woman calmly explained why my body would never give me the future I had imagined. Barren, wolfless, defective. 3 words. 3 simple words that cut away every dream I had ever allowed myself to have. The second time came 4 years later. I was 23, standing in a marble corridor of the royal palace while the heir to the throne screamed himself hoarse somewhere beyond a closed door. Servants surrounded the nursery, women with healthy wolves, women who could bear children, women who possessed every quality our world considered natural and valuable. Yet none of them could do the simplest thing. They could not make a crying child stop. That second lesson was different. It made me wonder whether being broken in every way the world despised might somehow make me exactly right for someone who needed those particular broken pieces. But before I understood any of that, I was simply Rena, the wolfless daughter of a family already drowning in shame and debt. The marketplace smelled of spoiled vegetables, dust, and desperation. I kept my head lowered as I followed 3 steps behind my father and my sister, Lissa, counting the stones beneath my shoes while we walked. Keeping a distance had become habit. If I stayed quiet enough and invisible enough, perhaps people would forget that my family carried a defect. "Rena, straighten your back," my father hissed without looking at me. "You make us look poor." I lifted my shoulders. It changed nothing. Everyone in Crescent Valley Pack already knew our situation. Once, my family had been respectable. Now we survived by clinging to the edge of that old reputation, dragged steadily downward by debt, bad harvests, and the daughter who had never shifted. Lissa walked proudly beside our father. Her honey-colored hair caught the afternoon sun, and even without looking directly at her, I knew people were watching. Lissa had shifted for the first time when she was 13, exactly when a healthy wolf should. Her wolf was silver, with beautiful amber eyes. My mother had cried from relief. I had smiled. I had congratulated my sister. Then I had gone alone to my bedroom, stared at the ceiling until morning, and waited for something inside me to awaken. Nothing ever did. 10 years had passed since then. I was 23 now. Still no wolf, still no shift, and according to everyone who mattered, no future. "There he is," Father muttered. His shoulders stiffened. "Remember, let me speak." Ahead of us, beneath the awning outside the tax collector's office, stood Beta Cornelius. He was broad through the shoulders, with iron-gray hair and a hard face that looked as though it had forgotten how to smile many years ago. Officially, he collected taxes for the royal family. Everyone knew that was only part of his work. Beta Cornelius collected debts, and my family owed the crown more than we had any hope of paying. "Thaddeus," Cornelius said when we approached. No greeting, no pleasantries. His gaze moved from my father to Lissa. Then it reached me. There it stayed, calculating. "You're 3 months behind." "I know," Father answered quickly. The harvest was poor, and with the new tariffs, I don't care about your harvest. Cornelius cut through his explanation without raising his voice. The king does not accept excuses, he accepts payment. My father's jaw tightened. Lissa moved closer to him and slipped her hand into his. Father and his favored daughter, united. I remained 3 steps behind them. Alone. I need more time, father said. Something in his voice cracked. Perhaps pride. Give me another month. I can. You can't. Cornelius's tone ended the argument. Then his eyes returned to me. But perhaps there is another way to clear what you owe. My stomach tightened. The palace has a need, he continued. A very particular one. He kept watching me. For someone expendable. Someone who would not be greatly missed if the arrangement went badly. My father answered far too quickly. What kind of need? Hope and fear fought inside his voice. Cornelius smiled. It was the cruelest expression I had ever seen. The Alpha King's son cries day and night. Endlessly. No one has been able to soothe him. Wet nurses have failed. Healers have failed. He paused. His mother. Cornelius seemed to select his next words carefully. The queen is indisposed. His Majesty has become frustrated. What does that have to do with? Lissa began. Cornelius ignored her. The king has requested women who can serve in the nursery, care for the boy, tend to him. His smile deepened. Calm him. Something in the way he said those words turned my skin cold. Rena can do it, father said immediately. I stared at the back of his head. He had not even looked at me. She's good with children. She's patient. Gentle. Lissa turned sharply toward him. Father. She would be perfect, he continued, gaining confidence now that he had found a possible escape. And she, well, she won't be missed here. My chest went hollow. No prospects, no wolf. Palace service might even be good for her. Give her something useful to do. I waited for him to turn, to ask, to acknowledge that he was offering his daughter like livestock. He never did. Interesting, Cornelius murmured. His gaze narrowed on me. And you would send her knowing the risks? What risks? Lissa demanded. Cornelius looked at her. The Alpha King is not celebrated for patience. His son appears to have inherited that difficulty. Servants who fail to meet expectations rarely return to ordinary service. The meaning settled between us like smoke. She'll succeed, father said. His certainty made something inside me break. Rena has always been good at surviving with very little. This is simply another challenge. I'll go. All 3 of them turned. It was the first thing I had said since leaving home. Rena, you don't have to, Lissa began. But beneath the concern in her voice, I heard relief. She did not want to go. Of course she did not. Lissa had a wolf, a future, a mate waiting for her, a life. I'll go, I repeated. This time I looked directly at Cornelius. If my service clears my father's debt, I'll go to the palace. Cornelius studied me for several long seconds. I refused to lower my eyes. Let him see exactly what he was buying. A wolfless woman with nowhere else to go, nothing to lose, no one likely to mourn her. Very well. He nodded. Pack your things, the carriage leaves at dawn. Dawn? Father's voice faltered. That's very soon. The child is crying now, Cornelius replied. The king's patience is disappearing now. Your daughter goes, and the debt remains settled. Or she stays, and I return next week with guards instead of an offer. Father nodded immediately. Yes, of course. Rena will be ready. Cornelius handed him a piece of paper. Paid in full, contingent upon her service. If she runs or fails to report, the full debt returns with interest. Then he looked at me once more. The palace is beautiful, girl. Marble columns, golden chandeliers, gardens that bloom through every season. His smile turned cold again. Do not mistake beauty for kindness. The Alpha King did not build his throne on kindness. He walked away. His boots struck the cobblestones with crisp, steady clicks. For several moments, none of us moved. Then Father finally turned toward me. Finally looked at me. "You're doing the right thing." I waited. "For the family," he added. "Not for you. For the family." "I know," I said quietly. Lissa touched my arm. "Rena, I'm sorry. If there were another way." "There isn't." I stopped her gently. "It's fine." It was not fine. But it was true. And truth was the only thing I still owned. We walked home without speaking. I packed everything I possessed into one small trunk. 3 dresses, a hairbrush, and the book of folk tales my mother had given me before she died. My entire life fit easily inside one container. That night, sleep never came. I sat beside the window and watched the moon move slowly across the sky. And because stories had always been the place I escaped when reality became too painful, I began telling myself one. I told myself this was an adventure. I told myself the palace would be beautiful. I told myself perhaps caring for a child might finally give me the purpose I had never found anywhere else. But beneath every comforting story was the truth. I was being sent to the palace the way villagers sent a sacrifice to a dragon, with the hope that I would be enough to satisfy its hunger, and with the quiet acceptance that I probably would not survive. The carriage arrived at dawn. Black, unmarked. I climbed inside without looking back at the house where I had grown up. Behind me, Father and Lissa were still sleeping peacefully, now that their greatest problem had been removed. As the carriage carried me through the gates of Crescent Valley toward the capital, I placed one hand against the cold window and whispered the only prayer I had left. Let me be useful. Let me matter. Even if it's only for a little while. I heard the child before I saw the palace. His cries pierced through the carriage walls as we approached the capital. High, desperate, relentless. The sound echoed from marble walls and golden towers. Something about it felt wrong. This was more than hunger, more than discomfort. The child sounded anguished, as though he were crying for something far deeper than any ordinary need. The driver had not spoken during the entire journey. He did not speak when the carriage stopped either. He opened the door, stepped aside, and gestured for me to get out. Beta Cornelius had not exaggerated. The royal palace was almost painfully beautiful. White marble columns rose toward a cloudless sky. Fountains glittered inside perfectly maintained gardens. Gold flashed from windows and balconies. Every surface spoke of wealth, power, and control. And somewhere within all that perfection, an infant screamed. A woman wearing a severe gray dress waited at the servants' entrance. She examined me with the same expression someone might use when judging spoiled meat. "The Wolfless girl?" "Yes, ma'am." "Come." She gave me no name, no welcome. She simply turned away, certain I would follow. I did, carrying my small trunk in both hands. The inside of the palace was even more magnificent. Ceilings towered above us. Paintings rested in enormous gilded frames. Crystal chandeliers spilled light across polished floors. But the woman did not take me through those beautiful rooms for long. She led me downward. One staircase. Then another. Then another. The passages became narrower as we descended beneath the palace. Eventually the marble disappeared. Plain stone replaced it. Crystal chandeliers gave way to simple lamps. The palace's beauty had been stripped away. Down here, only the bones remained. "You'll sleep here." The woman opened a small door. Inside was a narrow cot and a wash basin. Nothing else. "You'll work in the nursery wing," the child cries. "You make him stop. Those are your instructions." "What is his name?" I asked. She stared at me. "Does that matter?" "I would like to know what to call him." For a moment, I thought she might refuse to answer. Then she sighed. "Samuel, Prince Samuel." "And his mother?" "Dead." The answer came instantly. She died giving birth 3 months ago. The king does not discuss it. The woman's eyes hardened. Neither will you. 3 months. Samuel had been crying for 3 months. You begin now. Wash yourself. Put on the uniform. Report to the nursery wing in 15 minutes. She left before I could respond. The door closed behind her. I stood alone in that tiny stone room, still gripping my trunk while Prince Samuel's cries reached me through the walls. Then I set my things down. I removed my traveling clothes. I washed in the cold water waiting in the basin. I put on the gray servant's uniform laid across the cot. I braided my hair tightly against my head. And then I went upstairs to meet the child who would change everything. Chapter 2. The Beast in the Nursery. The nursery wing was chaos dressed in silk and gold. Samuel's screams reached me before I turned the final corner. They were even worse up close. Wave after wave of raw distress. But the crying was not the only sound. Servants whispered sharply at one another. Feet hurried across polished floors. Someone was pleading. Someone else was crying. The woman in gray led me down a long corridor filled with portraits of stern royal ancestors. Their painted eyes seemed to follow me as I passed. At the far end stood 2 enormous oak doors, both open. Shadows moved rapidly beyond them. Wait here, the woman ordered. She disappeared inside. I remained alone in the corridor with the portraits and the sound of Prince Samuel's screaming. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was real now. Whatever happened after I crossed those doors would decide whether I survived, whether my family remained free of debt, whether I finally became useful to someone. The woman returned. Her expression was even tighter than before. The king wants to see you first. My stomach dropped. The king? He personally examines every servant who works with the prince. Her hand clamped around my arm. Her fingers dug hard enough to leave bruises. Do not speak unless he speaks to you. Do not look directly at him. Do not— Let me guess, I murmured. Do not fail. She stared at me. For one heartbeat, something almost like pity entered her eyes. Then it vanished. Come. She dragged me through the doors. The chamber beyond was made of dark wood and deeper shadows. Candles burned along the walls, but somehow they seemed to create more darkness than light. Samuel's crying was deafening here. The actual nursery must have been through another connecting door. A woman wearing a stained servant's uniform stumbled past us. Tears poured down her face. I tried, she sobbed. I tried everything. I swear. Get out. The voice came from the shadows. Deep, cold, absolute. The servant fled. The woman beside me tightened her grip. Then she pulled me into the center of the chamber and stepped backward as quickly as possible, leaving me standing alone beneath the candlelight. Another one, the voice said. And then I saw him. The Alpha King sat near the fireplace in a high-backed chair, one leg crossed over the other, perfectly still. He was younger than I had expected, perhaps 30. Dark hair, dark eyes, a face that might have been handsome if it contained even a trace of warmth. It did not. Power surrounded him the way heat surrounds a forge, except his power felt cold. When his eyes settled on me, they were empty, wolfless. Not a question, a judgment, expendable. I remained silent. Neither statement required an answer. The king rose. In that moment, I understood why an entire kingdom feared him. He was not especially large. He did not need to be. He moved like a predator. Every step controlled, every motion graceful. Violence seemed to live inside him, restrained only because he chose not to release it. He circled me slowly. My son has been crying for 3 months. His voice remained flat. 13 wet nurses, 8 healers, 27 servants, all failed. He stopped before me. Most lasted less than a week before begging to be removed from service. He came closer. I smelled leather, smoke, and something darker that belonged only to him. The last woman lasted 4 hours before she lost control and shook him. His voice dropped. I removed her myself. I understood what he meant. Removed did not mean reassigned. My patience is finished. My son needs someone who can calm him. I do not care whether you sing, tell stories, or use whatever talents a wolfless woman might possess. His eyes hardened. But you will stop his crying, or you will leave this palace the same way the last failure did. Finally, something I could answer. I understand, Your Majesty. Do you? He tilted his head slightly. You're frightened. I can hear it in your breathing. I can see it in the way you hold your shoulders. His gaze sharpened. But you came anyway. He paused. Why? The question surprised me. I searched for a safe answer. The truth, he ordered. I can smell lies. Of course he could. Alpha wolves were known for it. My family owed the crown money, I answered. My service clears their debt. I swallowed. I came because I had nowhere else to go, and nothing else worth offering. Something moved behind his empty eyes. Not kindness. Perhaps recognition. At least you're honest. He stepped back. That already places you above most people in this palace. He gestured toward the connecting door. The nursery is there. My son is in the cradle near the window. Do whatever you believe is necessary. He started walking away. I'll return in 1 hour. An hour? The question escaped before I could stop it. He glanced at me. To determine whether you succeeded. Then his eyes cooled. And to see whether you're still alive. He continued toward the main doors. At the threshold, he stopped without turning. One more thing. My hand tightened at my side. My son is unusual. Do not be alarmed by what you see. A colder warning followed. And do not run. Runners never make it past my guards. Then he disappeared. The doors shut behind him with the final sound of a coffin closing. I stood alone. The woman in gray had vanished too. No one was coming to help me. Samuel's cries pulled at something deep inside my chest. I crossed the room, placed my hand on the nursery door, took one breath, then opened it. The nursery was beautiful enough to hurt. A large dark wood cradle stood beneath an arched window draped in luxurious fabric. Wooden horses, stuffed bears, and silk balls lay across a soft carpet. A rocking chair waited beside the fireplace. Samuel had everything a royal child could possibly need, except someone who could hold him without fear. The prince lay inside the cradle, screaming so desperately that it seemed he had forgotten any other way to exist. His face was red, his eyes swollen, his tiny body rigid. I approached slowly. The king had warned me not to be alarmed. Now I understood. Samuel was shifting, not completely. He was only 3 months old, far too young for any proper first transformation, but his body flickered uncontrollably between human and wolf. His tiny fingers suddenly became claws, then changed back. His brown eyes flashed gold. Brown again. Gold. Small ripples of fur moved across his skin before disappearing. Some cries broke into tiny animal growls, only to return to human wails. He was trapped between forms, unable to settle in either. No wonder he screamed. No wonder the others had failed. The child's own body was hurting him. Oh! The word left me as something inside my chest cracked. Oh, you poor little thing. All my life, I had been told I was defective because I could not shift. Samuel was suffering because he shifted too much, too early, too powerfully. We were opposite ends of the same curse. Without thinking, I reached into the cradle and lifted him. He was heavier than I expected. Warm. Real. His little body burned with the fever of transformation. He screamed directly into my face. Milk and misery on his breath. I know, I whispered, pressing him against my chest. I know it hurts. His claws pierced my uniform and dug into my shoulder. Blood warmed my skin. I did not pull away. I know you're scared. I began rocking without even deciding to. Everyone wants you to be something already, don't they? His crying continued. They want the perfect prince, the perfect heir. They want you strong, controlled, powerful. They want you to shift when they expect it and stop when they tell you. His cries caught for half a second. Perhaps he was listening. But you can't do that yet. I lowered my voice. You're only a baby. I carried him toward the rocking chair. You're still discovering what your own body can do, and it's too much. I sat, holding him securely. His transformations seemed slightly slower. Perhaps I imagined it. Perhaps not. I can't shift at all, I told him. My voice was almost lost beneath his cries. I never could. Samuel's eyes were human and brown now, still wet with tears, still distressed, but fixed on my face. Everyone said that made me broken, worthless, not really a wolf. I rocked him steadily. Maybe they're right. His fingers curled against my dress. But perhaps being broken is exactly what you need from me right now. I brushed damp hair from his forehead, because I'm not going to force you to shift, and I'm not going to force you to stop. His cries softened by one small degree. I'm simply going to stay here while you figure it out. Stories had always been my refuge. When I had nothing else, I had stories. So I gave one to Samuel. Once upon a time, I whispered, there was a kingdom made entirely of glass. The houses were transparent. The roads were transparent. Even the people were transparent. No one could hide what they thought. No one could hide what they felt. It was the story my mother used to tell me when I was small and frightened at night. A story about a girl made of glass. Everyone believed she was too fragile to survive, until the kingdom faced a truth no one else was brave enough to see. Samuel's screaming began to weaken. It did not stop. But the cries became whimpers. His body still flickered occasionally between forms, yet the changes were no longer as violent. I kept rocking, kept speaking, kept holding him as though he were precious instead of cursed. The glass girl walked through those transparent streets, I told him, and she saw all the lies people told themselves. She saw a king who pretended to be fearless when inside he was terrified. She saw warriors pretending to be unbreakable when they were wounded. I hesitated. She even saw mothers who pretended to love their children while secretly wishing those children had never been born. My voice tightened. For a moment, I thought of my father. Then I continued. And do you know what the glass girl did? Samuel watched me. She did not judge them. She did not try to repair them. She simply saw them, really saw them. I lowered my voice even more, and she said, you do not have to pretend with me. I am too broken to judge anyone. Samuel stopped crying. Completely. I stared down at him. Wide brown eyes stared back, fully human. One tiny hand closed around my finger with startling strength. His skin was still warm, but no longer burning. The shifting had stopped. For the first time in 3 months, the royal palace was silent. I was afraid to move, afraid to breathe too deeply, afraid that the smallest change might destroy the fragile peace between us. So I continued rocking. And the people of the Glass Kingdom looked at the girl who could see every secret and every shame they carried. They realized something. Being truly seen was better than pretending. Being broken together was better than being perfect alone. Samuel's eyelids slowly lowered. His breathing became deeper, slower. Then he fell asleep. I sat in that rocking chair with the sleeping prince in my arms while tears slipped down my face. Because for the first time in my life, the thing everyone despised about me had been useful. For the first time, I had been exactly what someone needed. The door opened without a sound. I did not turn. I did not want to wake Samuel, but I knew who had entered. I felt the Alpha King's cold power spreading through the room. He came around the chair until he could see me. Then he looked down at his sleeping son. Something changed in his empty eyes. How? One word. That was all. I told him a story. I whispered. The king stared at me, and I didn't try to force him to stop shifting. I let him be what he was. He remained silent for a long moment. Then he reached down, carefully, almost impossibly carefully. He lifted Samuel from my arms. The baby stirred but did not wake. He settled against his father's chest with a quiet sigh. For one heartbeat, the Alpha King looked almost vulnerable, almost human. Then the mask returned. You will stay. His voice was flat again. My son needs you. Yes, Your Majesty. The servant before you slept in the lower quarters. You won't. You'll be moved here, beside the nursery. He looked toward the cradle. I will not have you far away if he wakes. Yes, Your Majesty. Jacob laid his son down with astonishing gentleness. Hands rumored to kill without hesitation, handled the infant as though he were made of glass. Then the king faced me. Do not fail me. His voice lowered. More importantly, do not fail him. I won't. I meant it. Every wounded piece of me meant it. The king nodded and moved toward the door, then stopped. His back remained toward me. What is your name? Rena, Your Majesty. Rena. He repeated it slowly. The glass girl who sees the truth. Then he left. I remained in the nursery beside the sleeping prince, understanding that in 1 hour I had somehow made myself necessary to the most dangerous man in the kingdom. I should have been terrified. Instead, purpose burned in my chest like a candle finally lit after years of darkness. I mattered. At least for now. I mattered. Chapter 3. Survival through communication. They moved me into a room beside the nursery that same night. It was still small, but compared with the servant's cell downstairs, it felt almost luxurious. There was a real bed, a window overlooking the palace gardens, a proper wardrobe filled with gray uniforms. It was still a cage. Only now the cage was gilded. I did not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Samuel's face. Those brown eyes. The trust in them. No one had ever looked at me that way before. And behind Samuel's face, I saw the Alpha King. His empty stare. His quiet warning. Do not fail me. Failure meant death. I understood that far more clearly now than I had when Beta Cornelius first made his offer. This was no longer only about my family's debt. This was about staying alive. Near midnight, Samuel woke again. The moment I heard his cry, I was out of bed. I reached the nursery before anyone else. His cries had not yet become screams. I lifted him quickly. His fingers flickered into claws. Gold flashed through his eyes. I'm here. I held him against me. I have you. Then I settled into the rocking chair and began another story. This one was about a boy who could speak to shadows in a world where everyone feared the dark. Samuel's shifting slowed, then stopped. His crying became quiet whimpers, then silence. Within 20 minutes he was asleep. I remained in the rocking chair, holding him while moonlight painted the nursery floor silver. That became our pattern. Every few hours Samuel woke. He cried. He shifted. I went to him immediately. I held him and told stories until his body settled. The other servants soon began avoiding the nursery almost entirely. I could feel their relief. They no longer had to face the screaming prince. But I also felt something less pleasant. Resentment. Suspicion. The wolfless woman was succeeding where wolves had failed. On the third night, the Alpha King came to observe. I never heard him enter. He moved too quietly. But I felt him. That cold force filling the room. I was holding a sleepy Samuel and telling him about a queen who became a bird every night. And each night, I whispered, she flew over her kingdom to make certain her people were safe. Samuel's eyelids drooped. Every morning she returned to her human body exhausted but happy because she knew she had protected them. The king watched without interrupting. After several minutes, he spoke. How many times has he woken tonight? 3, Your Majesty. I kept my voice low. But each time he settles more quickly. I think he's beginning to understand that I'll come when he cries. I looked down at Samuel. That he's safe. Safe? Bitterness touched the king's voice. My son is heir to the throne, yet he needs someone to convince him he is safe inside his own nursery. I said nothing. There was no safe response. He stepped closer. I forced myself not to tense. His eyes lowered toward Samuel. For a brief second, the same vulnerability I had seen before returned. His mother used to sing to him. His voice became quieter. When she was pregnant, she would sit beside the window and sing old lullabies. I held perfectly still. This was the first time he had willingly spoken about the dead queen. The healers said he could hear her voice before he was born. Whenever she sang, he moved. His expression emptied again. She died the night Samuel was born. He paused. She hemorrhaged. The healers couldn't stop it. His jaw tightened. I held her while she bled to death. His voice became almost toneless. The last thing she said was, "Protect him. Protect our son." Silence filled the nursery. I have killed enemies with my own hands, the king continued. I have conquered territory. I have destroyed rebellions. His eyes stayed on Samuel, but I could not protect her. The confession seemed to cost him something. And I cannot even comfort my own child. The words remained between us. Raw. Terrible. Perhaps comfort isn't something strength can force, I said softly. His eyes snapped toward mine. I nearly stopped. But then I continued. Perhaps Samuel doesn't need someone strong right now. What does he need? Someone broken enough to understand him. The danger in the king's face returned instantly. Careful, servant. His voice chilled. You're useful. Do not mistake that for being irreplaceable. I lowered my eyes. My apologies, Your Majesty. But he did not leave. He remained beside the chair, watching his son. Then, so quietly I almost missed the word, he said, "Teach me." I looked up. Your Majesty? Teach me how to calm him. The words sounded painful for him to say. I'm his father. His voice roughened. I should be able to. He stopped. But I understood. The Alpha King could terrify thousands of wolves with a look. Yet he could not soothe his own baby. And that failure was destroying him. It isn't really a technique, I said carefully. Then what is it? Presence. He frowned. Being there without expecting anything from him. I searched for safer words. When Samuel begins shifting, he's overwhelmed. His wolf is too powerful and too close to the surface for someone his age. I glanced at the sleeping baby. Every person who came before me focused on stopping him. Stopping the crying, stopping the shifting, stopping the behavior they considered difficult. But Samuel can't stop. He doesn't know how. The king listened without moving, so I don't ask him to. I adjusted the blanket over Samuel. I hold him. I give him something else to listen to, something besides the pain and fear. And when he shifts, I don't pull away. I don't stiffen. I don't become frightened. I stay. Stories, the king said slowly. You soothe the heir to the throne with children's stories. Yes, Your Majesty. He considered that, then said, Tell me one. I blinked. Pardon? Tell me a story. It was a command now. I want to understand what my son hears. Refusing would have been dangerous. So I began. Once upon a time, there was a king made of stone. The Alpha King's expression did not change. He was the strongest king in all the realms. No weapon could hurt him. No enemy could break him. But his strength had a price. The stone spread slowly through his body year after year. I watched Jacob carefully. Until one day, it reached his heart. His jaw tightened. Still, he said nothing. The Stone King ruled with justice, but without mercy. He protected his people, but never allowed himself to love them. And when his wife died giving birth to their son, The stone finally closed completely around his heart. I paused. He believed he would never feel anything again. Something moved inside the king's eyes. But then something unexpected happened. Samuel stirred lightly against me. The Stone King's son was born with wild magic, powerful magic, uncontrolled magic. Every time it emerged, it hurt the baby. I lowered my voice. And the king, who believed nothing could hurt him anymore, discovered that watching his child suffer was the one thing capable of cracking stone. Jacob stood completely still. So the king had a choice. He could seal those cracks, become harder, stronger, more impossible to reach, or he could let the cracks widen. He could let himself break open, let himself feel again. Even though feeling meant pain, even though softness meant vulnerability, even though love might be the most dangerous magic of all. I stopped. The story hung unfinished. Jacob stared at me, then turned toward the door. Your Majesty? He stopped but did not look back. Which choice did he make? The Stone King. Did he let himself break? You're the storyteller. His voice became cold again. You tell me. Then he left. I remained in the rocking chair, staring at the closed door. Perhaps I had just earned my own execution by telling the Alpha King a story clearly about himself. But 3 hours later, when Samuel cried again, Jacob returned. He appeared in the doorway as I lifted the baby. Then he asked something I never expected. May I? I nearly dropped Samuel. Of course, Your Majesty. Jacob came forward and extended his arms. I transferred Samuel carefully into his father's hold. For the first time, Jacob did not look angry or frustrated while holding him. Samuel whimpered. His fingers started to change. Jacob's muscles immediately tightened, the instinct to control, to force. Don't fight it, I whispered. His eyes met mine. Just hold him. Show him you aren't afraid. Something stripped raw appeared in Jacob's expression. Fear, grief, love so painful he had hidden it beneath cruelty. Then he looked down at his child. Your mother had a voice like honey and sunlight, he said quietly. Samuel whimpered again. She sang constantly. A faint shadow of memory moved over Jacob's face. It drove my advisors mad. They told her a queen should be dignified and reserved. His mouth almost curved. She told them dignity was for people too frightened to be happy. Samuel's shifting slowed. She wanted to name you after her father. Jacob adjusted the child in his arms. I insisted on Samuel. It means guardian spirit. I thought that suited an heir. His voice roughened. She laughed at me. She said you would probably spend your life protecting everyone else's spirit and forget your own. Samuel looked up. Completely human now. She said you would have her heart. Jacob swallowed. Soft. And far too large for your chest. The shifting stopped. Samuel stared at his father. She was right, Jacob whispered. You have her eyes when you're human. Her spirit when your wolf comes. His expression tightened. You are everything good about her. Everything I failed to protect. I held my breath. The Stone King was breaking. But I can protect you. His voice became stronger. I can keep you safe. I will find people who can help you understand your wolf. People who will teach you strength without teaching you hardness. People who know that breaking open is not the same as breaking apart. His eyes flicked toward me. Acknowledgement. And perhaps warning. Samuel yawned. Then nestled against his father. Within minutes he slept. Jacob stood holding him for a long time. Barely moving. Barely breathing. Then he carried Samuel to the cradle and laid him down. When he faced me again, the king's mask had returned. But something beneath it had changed. I want you to continue caring for him. Yes, Your Majesty. I'll come every night. He paused. I want to learn. Yes, Your Majesty. He reached the door, then stopped. Rena. Your Majesty? The Stone King. His voice was low. I think he chose to break. I said nothing. Jacob continued. Because existing without feeling anything is not really living. He looked toward Samuel, and his son deserved a father who was alive. Then he left. I stood alone beside the sleeping prince, suddenly aware that the most feared man in the kingdom had trusted me with something more dangerous than any military secret. His capacity to love, his capacity to break. Over the following weeks, we formed a routine. Jacob came to the nursery every night, usually near midnight. After the third night, a second rocking chair appeared beside mine. No one explained who had ordered it. No explanation was necessary. I taught Jacob how to recognize the warning signs before Samuel began shifting, how to hold him, how to keep his own body relaxed, how to tell stories. He was terrible at that last part. His first attempts sounded more like military briefings than bedtime tales. Every hero developed battle formations. Every enchanted forest somehow contained territorial strategy. Every wolf prince learned supply management. But slowly, Jacob changed. His voice softened. Facts loosened their hold. Imagination entered. Samuel began seeing his father not as the cold king who ruled the realm, but as the man who arrived in the darkness to hold him and tell clumsy stories about warrior wolves and enchanted woods. Samuel still shifted. He was too young and his power too unpredictable for the episodes to disappear entirely. But they became less frequent, less violent. Night by night he learned control. And I learned too. The Alpha King was not simply stone and cruelty. He was a man who had lost the person he loved most, and built walls high enough to keep anyone from hurting him again. But Samuel had found a crack in those walls. And now light was beginning to enter. It should have remained professional, king and servant, nothing else. But on the night everything changed, I made the first truly dangerous mistake of my life. I forgot to fear him. Chapter 4. Gradual Intimacy Through Shared Purpose. The moon was full that night, and restlessness seemed to move through the entire palace. I had been caring for Samuel for nearly 2 months. The difference in him was astonishing. He still shifted, and likely would until he became old enough to fully command his wolf. But now the episodes were brief, manageable. He smiled more. Sometimes he laughed. The sound was so bright that even stern servants stopped in the corridor when they heard it. Jacob noticed every change. He spent more time in the nursery, not only his midnight visits. He came before court in the early mornings. He stole minutes between diplomatic meetings. Sometimes he appeared in the afternoon simply to watch Samuel sleep. He began bringing books, ancient works about wolf magic, histories of children who shifted too young, medical texts about infant development. We read them together while Samuel napped, leaning over yellowed pages and whispering theories across the table. One afternoon, I found a passage that caught my attention. Look at this. I pointed to a section about inherited magic. It suggests that shifting too early can be a sign of an unusually powerful bloodline. Jacob moved closer. Close enough that I smelled leather, pine, and something distinctly his. My pulse changed. I forced my attention back to the book. So Samuel's condition might not be a curse, I continued. His power may simply be arriving too strongly and too early. Strong lineage. Jacob read the passage again. That would fit. He leaned back. His mother came from pure alpha blood extending 7 generations. Then his expression darkened. And mine. He stopped. I waited. By then, I had learned that Jacob revealed himself only when he chose. My father was a tyrant. His voice became flat, cruel, paranoid, violent. He stared at the book without seeing it. He killed his own brother because he imagined treason. Servants were executed for small mistakes. He ruled through fear. Jacob's jaw hardened. When I inherited the throne, I swore I would become something different. Strong, but fair. Feared, perhaps, but never hated. You succeeded, I said. He laughed once. There was no humor in it. Did I? He looked at me. I'm still feared. Still cold. The only improvement may be that I kill quickly instead of prolonging suffering. His mouth twisted bitterly. That isn't much of a moral achievement. You're here. He frowned. What? You're sitting in a nursery studying books because you want to understand your son. I held his gaze. A tyrant wouldn't do that. He turned fully toward me. Look at me. The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. I did. You're not afraid of me. It was not a question. No, Your Majesty. Why? I considered the safest answer. Then realized he would know if I lied. Because I've watched you with Samuel. His expression changed slightly. I've seen how gentle you are when you believe no one is paying attention. I hesitated. And because what? I should have stopped. Instead, I said the truth. Because I think your cruelty is a costume. Silence. A costume? He repeated. Something you wear. My heart began pounding. Not what you really are underneath. The silence became unbearable. I had gone too far. Forgotten my position. Then Jacob smiled. It was tiny. Almost gone before I could believe I had seen it. But it was real. A costume. He considered the phrase. That is an unusual description. I shouldn't have said it. No. He interrupted. You should. He leaned back in his chair. Everyone else is too frightened to tell me the truth. They either say what they think I want to hear or avoid saying anything. His gaze remained on me. But not you. You tell me stories about stone kings who need to learn how to break. You look directly at me. You treat me like... He stopped. A person, I supplied. Yes. His voice softened. Like a person. He looked away. It has been a long time since anyone did that. Samuel stirred in his cradle. Both of us turned toward him. The tension shifted. He's getting bigger, Jacob said. There was unmistakable pride in his voice. Stronger because of you. Because of us. He looked back. You've come every night. You've learned. You've tried. I smiled faintly. That matters more than you realize. Does it? His expression became serious. Some nights I wonder whether Samuel might be better if I left his care entirely to you. If my presence does more damage than good. That isn't true. How do you know? Because he reaches for you. I answered without hesitation. When you enter the room, his whole face changes. He knows you're his father. He loves you. I paused. Even when you don't know how to love yourself. Jacob stared at me, then stood abruptly. Walk with me. Your Majesty? That was not a request. Samuel remained asleep. The night servants can watch him for 1 hour. He headed toward the door. Walk with me, Rena. I followed. Partly because he was the king. Partly because I wanted to. We moved through corridors I had never entered. Past servants' passages. Past public halls. Up staircases that became narrower and more winding. Finally, Jacob opened a door onto a rooftop terrace. The view stole my breath. The Capitol stretched below us. Thousands of lights glittered in the darkness. The moon hung enormous and silver over the city. Wind loosened strands of my hair. The scent of flowers rose from gardens far beneath us. I come here when I can't sleep, Jacob said. He walked toward the railing. When the crown becomes too heavy. When the memories become too loud. I joined him, keeping a respectful distance. It's beautiful. It's lonely. He looked over the city. 1,000,000 lives around you. And still completely alone. His eyes moved toward me. You understand that? I did. Being wolfless means always standing outside the pack. I looked at the moon. You can live among them. Hear them. Watch them. But you're never completely one of them. Does that separation hurt? I almost lied. Then remembered who I was speaking to. Every day. My voice became quieter. It hurts every single day. Watching Lissa shift for the first time. Seeing the pride in my father's face and knowing he would never look at me that way. Hearing the pack run together at night and knowing I would never join them. I swallowed. Yes. It hurts. But you survived. I survived. I stared down at the city. I'm just not certain surviving and living are the same thing. Jacob turned fully toward me. That again. What? Existing is not living. His eyes held mine. You said the Stone King had to break open, or spend the rest of his life merely going through the motions. Yes. So how does someone choose to live? The question was sincere. How does someone break open when everything inside him is telling him to stay protected? I looked at the man standing before me. Powerful. Dangerous. Wounded. A king who controlled a realm and still did not know how to let himself feel. You find something that matters more than your fear. His eyes sharpened. Something worth breaking for. Something shifted between us. Electric. Dangerous. Completely forbidden. Like what? His voice lowered. Like a child who needs you. I took a careful breath. A son who deserves a father who is whole, not pieces held together by duty. Jacob stepped closer. I should have moved back. I should have remembered who he was. Remembered what happened to servants who crossed lines. But I remained where I was. What if it isn't only the child? His voice became very quiet. What if there is something else worth breaking for? My heart slammed against my ribs. Your Majesty, Jacob. I froze. My name is Jacob. His eyes never left mine. When we are alone, when there is no court and no crown, I want you to use it. That isn't appropriate. I don't care. He raised one hand. For a moment, I thought he would touch my cheek. He stopped just before his fingers reached me. For 2 months, you have treated me as a man instead of a king. You tell stories that see through every defense I have. You showed me how to be gentle when I thought I had forgotten. His voice roughened. And now I go to the nursery for more than Samuel. My breathing stopped. I go there because you are there. You're grieving. I grasped desperately for something solid. You lost your wife. I'm convenient. Someone close. Someone who cannot reject you. Cannot leave. Stop. His voice sharpened, then softened. Just stop, Rena. I know grief. His eyes held mine, and I know this is not grief. Whatever this is, it can't become anything. My voice shook despite my effort to control it. I'm a servant. Wolfless. Nothing. You're the Alpha King. This cannot. Why? He challenged the word immediately. Because people will talk? Because the court will disapprove? I am the king. I create the rules. No. He waited. Because I'm not her. Understanding changed his expression. I'm not the queen you lost. I cannot replace what she gave you. And I will not become someone's shadow because you are trying to fill an empty space with another woman. For a moment he looked surprised. Then something like respect entered his eyes. You're right. He lowered his hand. You are nothing like her. His voice softened with memory. She was sunlight. Laughter. Everything bright. Then he looked directly at me. You are shadows. Stories. And the person who sees truths everyone else avoids. He stepped no farther away. I do not want you to become her. I want you to remain yourself. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Because you understand broken things. His answer came without hesitation. You don't try to repair me. You don't ask me to become easier to love. You see me, the actual man beneath the crown and the cruelty. His gaze searched mine, and you aren't afraid of what you find. I should have said something sensible. Something that ended this. Instead, I asked, what do you see when you look at me? Jacob smiled. That rare, genuine expression transformed his entire face. I see a woman who tells stories to screaming babies and cracks stone with honesty. I see someone who believes her brokenness makes her worthless. His voice became softer, when in truth, it has made her one of the strongest people I have ever known. I could not speak. And I see someone who does not realize that every night I have been arriving at the nursery earlier. Why? Because I wanted a few more minutes to speak with you before Samuel woke. My breath caught. Jacob. The terrace door crashed open. We both turned. A guard stood in the doorway, pale and breathing hard. Your Majesty. Jacob became the king again instantly. What happened? The prince. The guard swallowed. He's shifting uncontrollably. Every thought vanished from my mind. The servants can't soothe him. The guard's eyes moved toward me. He keeps asking for what? The glass girl. We ran. Down the twisting staircase. Through the palace corridors. The words Jacob had spoken on the terrace chased me, but none of them mattered when Samuel's screams reached us. We burst into the nursery. Samuel lay in his cradle. His body was changing so rapidly it looked almost like a seizure. Skin, fur, skin, claws, fingers. Claws again. His little body twisted with pain. 3 servants stood helplessly nearby. I pushed past them, lifted Samuel. The instant he touched me, the violence of the shifting lessened. Not stopped, but eased. I have you. His claws pierced my shoulders. I held tighter. I'm here, sweet boy. Jacob came beside us. He laid one hand gently on Samuel's head. We're both here, son. His voice joined mine. You're safe. You're loved. Slowly, Samuel's shifting steadied. His screams weakened, then became whimpers. Then small, broken sobs. He clung to both of us. One fist gripping my uniform, the other hand wrapped around his father's finger. What happened? Jacob demanded. One servant answered nervously. We don't know, Your Majesty. He woke screaming. Then the shifting began. We tried everything. Her face tightened. But he kept saying glass. We didn't understand. The glass girl, I whispered. My story. Samuel had been calling for me. Jacob looked across the baby toward me. Understanding entered his eyes. His son had bonded to me, not simply as a servant, not merely as a caretaker. Somehow, the 3 of us had become a unit. 3 damaged people whose broken pieces fit together more naturally than anything perfect ever had. Everyone out. Jacob's voice became quiet and absolute. The servants fled. Only the 3 of us remained. King, servant, prince. Jacob watched Samuel cling to me. He needs you. I looked at him, not only as the woman who cares for him. He stopped. He did not need to finish. As a mother. I know. Tears slipped down my cheeks. But I can't be. I'm not. You already are. His voice was gentle. Look at him. Samuel was falling asleep against me. One little hand still held Jacob's finger. Rena, look at the way he holds on to you. You're his mother in every way that matters. My arms tightened around Samuel. This is dangerous. How? People will talk. They'll say I'm trying to replace his mother, that I'm overstepping. Let them. Jacob's answer was fierce. My son needs you. He stepped closer. I need you. His voice lowered. And I'm tired of pretending duty and propriety matter more than the people I love. Love. The word hung between us. Heavy, terrifying, real. Don't. My voice almost disappeared. Please don't say something you don't mean. I have never meant anything more. He did not look away. I know this is too fast. I know I am still mourning my wife. I am still learning how to be a father. I make mistakes every day. He swallowed. But when I am with you, the stone cracks. The cold disappears. I remember how it feels to be a man instead of only a king. My own defenses began collapsing. I don't know how to do this. I looked down at Samuel. I don't know how to become what he needs, or what you need. I'm only me. Broken, wolfless, perfect, Jacob finished. I looked at him. You are exactly what we need. There, in a nursery lit by candles, with a sleeping prince in my arms, and a king looking at me as though I were precious instead of disposable, I allowed myself one impossible moment of belief. I think, my voice trembled, I think I'm falling in love with you too. Jacob smiled. It was like sunrise entering darkness. Then fall. His voice was soft. I'll catch you. For the first time in my life, I believed someone might actually mean those words. Chapter 5. Emotional Breakthrough. The weeks after that confession were the happiest weeks I had ever known. And happiness frightened me more than almost anything. I had learned early that happiness was dangerous. It softened your defenses, made you forget that good things could disappear, especially when you were someone like me. Still, I let myself enter it. Jacob did not announce anything to the court. An alpha king openly courting a wolfless servant would have created political chaos. The nobles might have revolted. But inside the private rooms of the nursery wing, Jacob stopped pretending. His touches were small. Yet each one felt enormous. A hand against my lower back while guiding me toward the rocking chair. His fingers brushing mine when we passed Samuel between us. Once, while I told a particularly sad story, my voice cracked. Jacob reached across the space between us and wiped one tear from my cheek with his thumb. The gentleness hurt more than cruelty ever had. Our stories changed too. They were no longer simply a way to calm Samuel. They became conversations between Jacob and me, messages hidden inside fairy tales. I told a story about a warrior learning to put down his sword. Jacob added that the warrior's scars eventually became maps leading him home. He began a tale about a king who built walls around himself. I finished it with a vine that kept growing until its roots cracked through stone. Night after night, we created our own mythology. Then Jacob gave me a gift. One morning, I woke to find a small iron key beside my bed. No jewels, no decoration, only a note written in Jacob's precise hand. For when words are not enough, I knew enough about the palace by then to recognize the key. It belonged to the royal library, a vast chamber beneath the throne room holding thousands of books gathered throughout the kingdom's history. Nobles could enter, scholars could enter, servants absolutely could not. That night, after Samuel fell asleep and the palace became quiet, I slipped through the empty corridors. I unlocked the library. The room took my breath away. Shelves climbed from floor to vaulted ceiling. Constellations had been painted high overhead. Rolling ladders ran along tracks beside the tallest shelves. Small reading alcoves held cushioned chairs. Candles already burned on the tables, as though someone had known I would come. Then I saw the books arranged across the central table. Dozens. Every one about wolves, magic, shifting, rare cases, late transformations. People who had developed wolves in their 20s, their 30s, even their 40s. Hope and terror collided inside me. I had the scholars gather everything. Jacob's voice came from behind me. I turned. He leaned against a shelf. Watching. Everything about late manifesting wolves. Different kinds of magic. He hesitated. And the possibility that perhaps you are not broken. I stared at him. Only different. I could not find words. I know this may mean nothing. He left the shelf and approached. You've spent your entire life being told you're wolfless. I don't want to give you false hope. He looked toward the books. But Rena, you calm Samuel when wolves far more experienced than you cannot. You understand his magic in ways healers don't. What if there is a reason? He met my eyes. What if your wolf is simply sleeping? Don't. My voice broke. His expression changed. Please, don't do this. Do what? Give me hope. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. Hope is cruel. I shook my head. Hope made me stand outside during every full moon for years, waiting, certain that maybe this time I would shift. Hope made me swallow remedies that tasted like poison. It made me endure rituals and healers and promises. And every single time, nothing happened. My breath shook. Hope destroyed me once. I cannot survive it again. Jacob closed the distance. He cupped my face. His thumbs moved gently beneath my eyes. Then don't call it hope. What? Call it curiosity. Research. Investigation. Anything you need. His expression was intense. But you deserve to know the truth about yourself, even if that truth only confirms what you already believe. And if I read every book here, my voice was raw. If I discover I really am defective, if there is no wolf, no hidden magic, nothing, then you are still the woman who saved my son. His answer came fiercely. Still the woman who taught me how to break open without breaking apart. Still the one He stopped, swallowed, then continued. Still exactly who you have always been. A wolf cannot change that. Neither can the absence of one. I wanted to believe him, more than I wanted almost anything. I'm afraid. I know. Jacob rested his forehead against mine. The intimacy stole my breath. But you won't do this alone. We'll read together, research together, and whatever we discover, or fail to discover, we face it together. Why? The question came out broken. Why do you care this much? I'm only a servant. Stop. He pulled back. Stop making yourself smaller. His eyes hardened. You are not only anything. Then his voice softened. You want to know why I care? I nodded. Because for the first time since my wife died, I feel alive. He continued before I could answer. Because Samuel laughs now. And you are the reason. Because when I am beside you, the crown becomes lighter. I stop being His Majesty. I'm simply Jacob. His voice dropped. A man falling in love with a woman whose stories can crack stone. Jacob. And because every time I imagine a future now, he paused. You're in it. You. Samuel. Me. He drew one breath. I know it is politically disastrous. Improper. Perhaps impossible. But that does not make it untrue. I kissed him. I did not think. Did not plan. Did not measure the consequences. I rose onto my toes and pressed my mouth to his. The world narrowed to one point of contact. Jacob went completely still for one heartbeat. Then his arms closed around me. He kissed me back with a hunger that weakened my knees. There was nothing cautious about it, nothing polite. We kissed like two drowning people who had suddenly discovered air. When we finally separated, both of us were breathing hard. Jacob's eyes had gone dark. Rena, I know it's wrong. I spoke quickly. I know we can't. Will you marry me? Everything stopped. I stared. What? Will you marry me? There was no uncertainty in him now. Not immediately. Not publicly. Not yet. He took my hands. But will you promise yourself to me? Let me court you properly. Let me show this kingdom you're not some disposable servant. Let me find a way to make this possible. You've lost your mind. Despite my tears, a laugh nearly escaped. The nobles will never accept me. The court will revolt. My advisors can adapt. His jaw tightened. Or they can find other positions. Jacob, I have spent my entire life doing what was expected, choosing what was politically useful. I married for an alliance. I ruled through calculated distance. I built walls so high that nothing could reach me. His voice became bitter. And in the process, I became exactly what I swore I would never become. My father. Cold. Hard. Alone. His hands trembled faintly around mine. You make me better. You and Samuel. He looked directly at me. You make me want to be a better father. A better man. A better king. Someone who can lead with a heart instead of only strength. He paused. And I know what I'm asking you to risk. Your peace. Your safety. Your anonymity. This will be harder for you than for anyone. But I am asking anyway. His voice steadied. Rena, will you marry me? I should have refused. That would have been practical, safe, logical. Girls like me did not receive fairy tale endings. But I looked at Jacob, a dangerous man who had learned gentleness, a broken king who had chosen to crack open, a man offering not simply affection, but his future. I could not lie. Ask me again. His brow furrowed. With the riddle, understanding slowly entered his eyes. The stories I tell Samuel, I explained, the ones about choices and promises. Ask me the question that truly needs answering. Jacob considered. Then his gaze held mine. What is something that, once given, can never truly be taken back? My heart began pounding. Something that grows stronger as time passes. He came closer. Something that breaks only when someone holds it too tightly. A promise, I whispered. The answer is a promise. Then promise me. His voice lowered. Promise you'll stay. Promise you'll allow me to love you. Promise we will give ourselves the chance to create something real, even if everyone else calls it impossible. Tears streamed down my cheeks. But I smiled. I promise. He kissed me again. This time softly. When we separated, he pressed something into my palm. A ring, simple silver, a small moonstone in the center. It belonged to my mother, he said. I looked at him. It's the only thing of hers I kept after she died. His fingers closed mine around it. She once told me moonstones meant new beginnings, second chances, finding light inside darkness. He swallowed. I cannot place this on your hand publicly. Not yet, but I want you to have it. So you know this isn't simply a beautiful moment. This is real. I slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, as though it had been waiting for me. What happens now? Now we become patient. Jacob sounded as though he had been planning this for days. I'll begin bringing you into court functions. Officially, you'll be Samuel's primary caretaker. The nobles will become accustomed to seeing you, to hearing you speak. I'll order a genealogy search. I blinked. A genealogy search? Many minor noble houses have fallen into poverty. He smiled faintly. We'll find some connection, however distant. A respectable bloodline somewhere in your family. It won't make you powerful enough to threaten anyone, but it may give you enough status that when our engagement is eventually announced, it won't seem completely impossible. You've been thinking about this. I've thought of little else for weeks. His smile turned rueful. I am not rushing blindly, Rena. I know there will be opposition, possibly danger. Then the Alpha King returned to his eyes. But I have conquered territories. I have defeated rebellions. I can survive offended nobles. And me? My question quieted him. What about you? Can you accept a wife who might never shift? Who cannot give you more heirs? Who will never run beside you under a full moon? Who? Stop. Jacob pulled me closer. I have Samuel. I do not need another heir. His hand touched my cheek. And I do not care if you ever shift. I don't care about what you cannot do. I care about what you can. You make my son laugh. You made me feel human again. You see truth when everyone else chooses convenience. He paused. And if these books are right, if there is some possibility that you may shift one day, then we discover that together. His expression became firm. And if they are wrong, if you remain wolfless forever, I still choose you. His thumb brushed my cheek. Every day. I choose you. I buried my face against his chest. Tears came. Not from pain this time. From the almost unbearable feeling of being chosen by someone who could have anyone. I don't deserve this. Jacob's arms tightened. Neither do I. I pulled back enough to look at him. Then why does it work? Perhaps because neither of us is perfect. His mouth curved. Two damaged people choosing one another because our cracks happened to fit. We remained in the candlelit library for a long time, surrounded by books about impossible magic and uncertain futures. For the first time in my life, I allowed myself to believe in a happy ending. Not because I thought the road ahead would be easy, but because I believed I would not walk it alone. Later that night, Jacob and I returned separately to the nursery wing. Appearances still mattered. For now. I sat beside Samuel's cradle, 4 months old already. He was growing quickly. I could see hints of Jacob in him now. The strong shape of his face, the intensity in his eyes. But there was softness too, his mother's gentleness. The child might someday become exactly what Jacob hoped. Strength without hardness. If we kept him safe, if we taught him to control his wolf, if we gave him a childhood not ruled by grief. I touched the moonstone ring hidden beneath my sleeve. Then I made a silent promise to the sleeping child. I will protect you. I will love you. I will become the mother you lost, not to erase her, to honor her, and I will make certain you never believe brokenness is weakness. The nursery door opened. Jacob entered, still dressed in formal court clothes. "Can't sleep?" I whispered. "Didn't want to." He sat in the second rocking chair. "I wanted to be here." He looked from me to Samuel. "With my family." My family. The words settled around me. Warm, terrifying. "Perfect. Tell me a story," Jacob said. I smiled toward Samuel. "He's already asleep." "Not for him." Jacob looked at me. "For me." I thought for a moment. Once upon a time, there was a girl made of glass who believed she was too fragile for the world. Jacob listened. And there was a king made of stone who believed he was too hard to feel. They should never have worked. Glass and stone, softness and strength. But somehow, they met in the darkness. And, Jacob prompted, and they discovered glass could survive pressure. I smiled. And stone could crack enough to let light enter. They learned broken things could still be beautiful, still whole, still enough. How does it end? I looked at the man who had given me his mother's ring. The man who had offered me a future I had never believed possible. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "The story is still being written." "Good." Jacob reached across the space between our chairs and took my hand. "I prefer unfinished stories." "Why?" "More room for possibility." We sat together, hands joined, watching Samuel sleep. Tomorrow would bring court politics, noble opposition, 1,000 problems. But that night, inside that nursery, we were simply 3 wounded souls who had somehow found one another. And for that moment, it was enough. It was everything. Chapter 6. 3 months passed like a dream I was frightened to wake from. Jacob kept every promise he had made. Slowly, carefully, he began placing me in court life. At first, only informal gatherings. I walked with Samuel through the gardens while nobles approached to make polite conversation that was really an examination. They studied my speech, my posture, my clothing, my relationship with the prince. Then Jacob began inviting me to smaller dinners. I sat far from him, but I was visible. Familiarity, he explained, could turn scandal into routine. The genealogy search produced exactly what he had hoped for. Several generations back, my family had a distant connection to House Ashfeld, a minor noble line that had long ago lost nearly everything. It was not impressive, but it existed in the official records. Soon the court began calling me Lady Rena of House Ashfeld. Everyone knew the title was mostly courtesy. Still, it changed how some people looked at me. Some nobles sneered, others cautiously accepted my presence. A few were genuinely kind. Lady Helena was one of them. An older noblewoman whose daughter had also been wolfless and had died young. She quietly took me under her protection. She taught me etiquette, explained which families could be trusted, warned me about those who smiled while sharpening knives. But the greatest changes were still happening in the nursery. Samuel was 7 months old, and the child who had once screamed day and night was almost unrecognizable. His shifting had become controlled. He could remain human for days. When he chose his wolf form, it was playful, deliberate. He would become a small pup, race around the nursery on 4 legs, then shift back and demand to be held. Then one day, he called me Mama. Jacob was in the room. He sat nearby reading reports while Samuel and I played with blocks on the carpet. Samuel looked up, held both arms toward me, and said clearly, "Mama, up." I froze. The word seemed to stop my heart. I turned toward Jacob, waiting for him to correct the child, to remind him that I was not truly his mother. Jacob only smiled. "You heard him." His voice was gentle. "Mama, pick him up." So I did. I lifted Samuel. He wrapped his little arms around my neck. From that moment forward, I was Mama. Not Rena, not caretaker, not glass girl, Mama. I expected guilt. I expected to feel as though I had stolen something from the queen who died giving him life. Instead, the word felt like coming home. Jacob and I still kept our relationship from public declaration. But inside the palace, we no longer pretended. He kissed me goodnight after Samuel slept. Sometimes I fell asleep in his study while he worked. I would wake in my own bed beneath a blanket and find a note explaining that Jacob had carried me there. We spent evenings in the library studying the books about late-shifting wolves. I still showed no sign of transformation, no hidden wolf, no magical awakening. But for the first time, it mattered less. Jacob and Samuel were helping me build a life that had nothing to do with whether I could shift, a life where I was loved as I was. Then, on a clear autumn morning exactly 7 months after I arrived at the palace, that life shattered. Samuel was already awake when I entered the nursery. He lay in his cradle babbling cheerfully. I lifted him, changed him, and dressed him in a little blue outfit Jacob had commissioned. Silver wolves had been embroidered into the fabric. "Let's find Papa." I kissed Samuel's forehead. He promised breakfast with us. Samuel clapped. "Papa." I carried him through familiar corridors toward Jacob's private rooms. We had made that journey many times. The guards knew me. The servants no longer stared. Everything felt ordinary, until I knocked. Jacob opened the door himself. One look at his face stopped me. The warmth was gone. The familiar expression I had learned to love had disappeared. He wore the cold, empty mask from the day we first met. "Your Majesty?" The title came instinctively. "Come inside." His voice was flat. Quickly, I entered. Jacob shut the door. The room felt suddenly formal, distant, as though months of intimacy had never happened. "What is wrong?" I shifted Samuel higher against my hip. "Did something happen? There is something I need to tell you." He interrupted. "Something I should have told you months ago." Fear moved through me. "Jacob, don't." The command struck hard. "Do not use my name." He closed his eyes. "Not now." When he opened them again, pain flickered beneath the cold. "I need you to hear this as my subject, not as..." He stopped. "Not as anything else." My stomach tightened. "What is happening?" Jacob crossed to his desk. He lifted an old yellowed document. The writing looked ancient. Official. He held it as though it weighed far more than paper. "When my wife died, Samuel's shifting began immediately." I listened. The healers believed it was grief magic, that his wolf sensed the loss of his mother and tried to emerge as protection. I knew this. Jacob had told me before. They also said that if the shifting continued uncontrolled, Samuel would die. He looked at our son. His body was too young. Eventually the transformations would tear him apart. I waited. What I never told you. His voice became mechanical. Was that the healers went to the practitioners of the old magic, the witches who still preserve ancient spells. He extended the document. They told me there was one possible way to save him. I shifted Samuel to one hip, then read. The words were archaic, difficult, but slowly, meaning emerged. A binding, a spell. Or perhaps a curse. I don't understand. But I did. Some terrible part of me already understood. The spell required a sacrifice, Jacob said. Someone able to absorb Samuel's excess magic. To ground it. To regulate it. His expression remained still through force. Someone whose own magic was dormant or absent. A vessel. The words on the document blurred. A wolfless soul bound by service and proximity shall calm the shifting child through natural magical exchange. My breath stopped. You knew. Jacob said nothing. When you sent people to search for servants. My hands began trembling. When Beta Cornelius came to my village looking for someone expendable. You knew you required someone wolfless. Yes. One word. A knife. The binding activates through emotional attachment, Jacob continued. His voice sounded rehearsed. The child bonds with the vessel. The vessel bonds with the child. Then magic begins moving between them naturally. I barely heard him. The child releases excess power. The vessel receives it, grounds it. Samuel becomes stable. I look down at the boy in my arms, then back at Jacob. What happens to the vessel? Silence. My heartbeat thundered. Jacob. His mask finally cracked. What happens to the vessel? We don't know. Pain flooded his face. The records are incomplete. Some claim the vessel becomes more magically sensitive, more connected. Others. He stopped. Others say the vessel dies. I finished for him. The excess magic destroys them. We do not know that will happen to you. Stop lying. My voice rose sharply. Samuel startled. I immediately lowered it. No more lies. I held Samuel closer. Please. Tell me the truth. Jacob's shoulders lowered. There are 3 recorded cases. His voice went hoarse. All 3 vessels died within 2 years. The room tilted. 2 years. I could barely form the words. But they were different cases. Jacob stepped closer. Different forms of magic. Different conditions. How long have I been bound to Samuel? He stopped. 7 months. 17 months. Perhaps less. We do not know your situation is the same. Jacob spoke quickly now. The magic practitioners believe there could be exceptions. If you have any dormant power at all. If you could learn to channel Samuel's magic instead of absorbing it. I stared at him. The books. Understanding locked into place. That is why you gave me those books. His face tightened. The research on late wolves. You weren't only hoping I might shift. I could barely breathe. You were hoping I might have enough hidden power to survive what you had already done to me. Seeing me pardon. Jacob did not deny it. I looked at Samuel. He had become very quiet. His enormous brown eyes studied my face. He sensed my fear. His lower lip trembled. And then I felt it. Something I had always called maternal instinct. The strange warmth when I held him. The invisible pull between us. Now I knew what it was. Magic. Samuel released power into me. I absorbed it, held it, grounded it. A process that had been happening every day, every night. Every time I soothed him, every moment I loved him, slowly killing me. Did you know? My voice was almost calm. That was the frightening part. Jacob looked at me. When you told me you loved me, when you gave me your mother's ring, when you asked me to marry you, my throat tightened. Did you already know? Yes. The word broke in his mouth. God help me. His eyes filled with guilt. Yes. I walked toward the cradle in Jacob's room and carefully placed Samuel inside. The baby reached after me. Mama? Only a moment, sweet boy. My voice cracked. Then I faced his father. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Because you would not have stayed. Jacob answered with brutal simplicity. If you had known that bonding with Samuel might kill you, you would have refused. Or you would have remained because of your family's debt. Out of obligation. He looked toward Samuel, but you would not have loved him freely. And the spell only works if the bond is genuine. If the love is real. I stared. So you manipulated me. Rena, you let me fall in love with your child. My voice remained frighteningly steady. You let me believe I had chosen to help him. You let me become his mother. All while knowing I was dying because of it. I am trying to save you. Jacob shouted. It was the first time I had ever heard him raise his voice at me. Every day I have searched for another solution. A way to break the binding. To transfer it. To find another vessel. I have consulted every magic practitioner I could find. I offered fortunes. I have been trying. While lying to me. He stopped. While pretending you loved me. No. Jacob moved closer. I held up one hand. Was that part of the spell too? What? Did I need to love you? Did you need me attached to you? Is that why you courted me? Gave me that ring? Asked for promises? No. His answer was immediate. Fierce. That was real. All of it. Rena, I swear. He reached for me. Don't touch me. Jacob froze. Do not touch me. My control began to crack. Do not speak to me like I am precious when I am only... I laughed once, bitterly. What was your word? A vessel. Something expendable. You are not expendable to me. Then why am I dying? Tears finally came. Why is magic burning through my body while you knew and said nothing? Jacob's face twisted. Because I was a coward. His voice broke. Because I couldn't bear to lose you. Even while keeping you was killing you. Because I told myself I would solve it before time ran out. That I could save both of you. That somehow I could repair everything without ever having to confess what I had done. Well, I wiped tears from my face. You failed. Silence. So, what happens now? Do I leave and Samuel begins tearing himself apart again? Do I stay and die so the royal heir can live? I looked directly at him. What is your plan, Your Majesty? The title hurt him. He visibly flinched. There may still be a way. I said nothing. The practitioners believe that if you could access your own magic, if there truly is a dormant wolf inside you, you might be able to resist Samuel's excess power instead of simply absorbing it. Create balance. His words came quickly. But you would need to shift. You would need to awaken whatever power you possess. I have no power. The scream tore out of me. Samuel immediately began crying. I am wolfless. I pointed toward myself. I have always been wolfless. That is why your spell needed me. I sobbed now. Because I was empty. Because I was broken. Because there was nothing inside me to resist. Every beautiful month shattered at once. Hope. Love. The future we had built. All of it collapsed. Jacob reached for me again. This time, I let him. He pulled me against his chest. I cried into his clothes while Samuel cried behind us. I'm sorry. Jacob repeated it into my hair. Again. Again. I thought I could save you both. I'm sorry. But sorry could not return the months he had stolen. Sorry could not save my life. Sorry was only another word for guilt. I pushed away. I need time. Rena, I need to think. He started toward me. Please. The word stopped him. I was exhausted. Tired of being strong. Tired of being useful. Tired of becoming whatever everyone else needed. Give me time. Jacob nodded. Anything you need. He swallowed. But please do not leave Samuel. He needs you. To survive. I laughed bitterly. That's the part that matters, isn't it? Rena. He needs me to survive. I looked at the crying baby. What I need has never mattered. That isn't true. Isn't it? I crossed toward Samuel. My heart broke when I saw him reaching for me. I love him. My voice softened. I love him so much it hurts. I picked him up. But I am dying for him. I turned back to Jacob. And you never gave me the chance to choose whether I was willing to pay that price. I know. Jacob's voice was quiet. I will regret taking that choice from you for the rest of my life. If there is even one chance that you could shift. There isn't. I cut him off. I spent 23 years waiting for that miracle. It is not coming. Samuel calmed immediately in my arms. Now that I understood the binding, I felt his magic clearly. Warmth moving into my chest. A faint burn spreading through my veins. The cost of loving him. I'll stay. Jacob looked at me. I will stay because Samuel needs me. I held the boy close. And because I am not cruel enough to let an infant die simply because his father is a manipulative bastard. Pain crossed Jacob's face. But you and I are finished. Rena, whatever we were building. Whatever future you promised. It's over. My voice shook. I am Samuel's caretaker. Nothing more. Please. I'll remain in the nursery wing. I'll care for him. I'll research the binding. If there is any way to break it, I will find it. I stepped backward. But I do not want to see you unless Samuel requires it. No apologies. No explanations. And I certainly do not want your love. Jacob's face went still. Because your love is the thing killing me. I walked toward the door with Samuel in my arms. Jacob did not stop me. At the threshold, I turned. You told me about your father. His expression changed. How he was a tyrant. How you swore you would become different. I am different. His voice was hoarse. No. I looked at him. You are simply better at pretending to care while you sacrifice the people you claim to love. His face went white. At least your father was honest about being a monster. Then I left. I did not look back. Chapter 7. The Exile. The next 6 months were a particular kind of hell. I kept my promise. I remained in the nursery and cared for Samuel with the same devotion as before. But nothing felt the same. Every time I lifted him, I knew his magic was entering me. Every time I felt that warmth, I knew part of my remaining life was being consumed. Each day brought me closer to the fate of the vessels who had come before. I could feel the magic gathering inside my body, like water rising behind a dam. Usually it did not hurt. It was simply there, pressure behind my ribs, warmth in my blood that never fully disappeared. Some days were worse. My fingers trembled. My vision blurred. On the worst days, the room suddenly spun, and I had to sit before my knees failed. Sometimes I felt power crackling beneath my skin with nowhere to go. I told no one, especially Jacob. At first, he kept trying. He apologized, explained, begged for the chance to speak. I answered with perfect, cold politeness. That eventually hurt him more than anger would have. Finally, he stopped. He still came to see Samuel every day. Whatever else Jacob had done, he had become a good father. I could not deny that. But we spoke only when necessary. The warmth between us froze into something brittle. Samuel sensed it. At 13 months he could walk. He could speak in simple sentences. His shifting was now completely controlled. He often waddled between Jacob and me and grabbed both our hands. Mama, Papa, together. He would pull us toward each other. We smiled for him, pretended for him. Then separated the moment his attention moved elsewhere. It was torture. The court noticed. Whispers followed me. Why did the king no longer bring Lady Rena to dinners? Why had his favor cooled? Some decided I had overstepped. Others said Jacob had finally regained his senses and remembered that a wolfless former servant could never belong beside a king. The cruelest claimed I had imagined myself above my station and finally been corrected. I stopped caring. The research mattered more. Every night after Samuel slept, I went to the royal library. I read everything I could find about magical binding, vessels, absorption, transference. What I discovered was worse than Jacob had told me. The 3 historical vessels had not simply died, their bodies had burned out. Unable to contain the magic they absorbed, they eventually ignited from within. The texts used clinical language, spontaneous magical combustion, catastrophic vessel failure, terminal magic saturation. But beneath those careful phrases was one ugly truth. They died screaming. Judging by their timelines and the symptoms already appearing in me, I estimated I had perhaps 1 year. Probably less. I expected fear, rage, desperation. Instead, I mostly felt hollow. I had finally found a place where I mattered, where I was loved, needed, essential. And all of it had been built on a lie. I was valuable because I was dying, loved because I was useful, needed because my death kept someone more important alive. It felt strangely familiar. The story of my life. On a cold spring evening, 13 months after learning the truth, Jacob entered the nursery. I knew immediately that this visit was different. His posture was too controlled, his expression too carefully neutral. "We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss, Your Majesty. Please." That word from Jacob still had power over me. 5 minutes. I looked down at Samuel, happily playing with wooden wolves on the carpet. Fine. 5 minutes. Jacob closed the door. I found something. My body went still. A possible solution. Hope moved before I could kill it. What? There is a healer in the northern mountains. Jacob took out a folded letter. She lives alone and specializes in magical disorders. She has studied the binding. His eyes searched mine. She believes there might be a way to alter it, to make it less dangerous. I took the letter. The handwriting was cramped, careful, non-committal. Yet one sentence caught me. The vessel demonstrates unusual resilience, possible latent capacity. Investigation recommended. When? Next week. Jacob watched me. The journey takes 3 days. You would need to remain with her for at least a month. A month. She needs time for tests. This could be a complete waste. My voice remained flat. I could spend a month traveling and testing while my condition continues to worsen. It could. Jacob stepped closer. But it could also save you. That hateful, stubborn emotion stirred again. Hope. It is the only chance we have. I looked at Samuel. He had stopped playing. His dark eyes watched us with unnerving intelligence. What happens to him if I leave? The binding is permanent now. Jacob had clearly asked the same question. Distance will weaken the exchange, but it won't break the bond. Samuel may become irritable. His shifting might increase slightly, but he won't be in immediate danger. Jacob's voice dropped. You will be. He looked at me. Every day you remain untreated is 1 day closer to... He stopped. He did not need to finish. Why? The question came quietly. Jacob frowned. Why do you care whether I survive? His expression tightened. You got what you needed. Samuel is stable. The air is safe. I served my purpose. Jacob looked wounded. How can you ask me that? Because you lied. The words burst louder than I intended. Samuel startled. I immediately softened my voice. You lied from the beginning. You manipulated me into bonding with him. You made me believe I was choosing every step, that I was choosing to stay, choosing to love, when the entire time I was following the design of your spell. The love was real. Jacob's voice was desperate. The spell requires a true bond. Yes. I laughed bitterly. But what came after? What grew between us? How could I ever know whether that was real? He stared. Maybe I loved you because the magic wanted me close to Samuel. Maybe Samuel loves me only because the binding forced him to. Maybe everything. Stop. Command entered Jacob's voice. I went silent. Stop destroying what we had simply because I destroyed your trust. His breathing hardened. What existed between us beyond the binding was ours. What we could still have. If I forgive you, I laughed. You're asking me to forgive the man responsible for killing me. That is not an argument you apologize your way past. Then let me save you. His control finally broke. Go to the healer. Let her try. If you survive, then perhaps we can. There is no we. Jacob went still. There is a king who required a vessel for his son, and a servant foolish enough to fall in love with the man who signed her death sentence. That is all. That's not true, isn't it? I held his eyes. If you had told me everything before the binding began, if I knew exactly what loving Samuel would cost, would you still have asked me to stay? Jacob opened his mouth. No answer came. He did not need one. Samuel's life would always have mattered more than mine. That's what I thought. I looked away. Rena, go to the healer. His voice softened. If you refuse for me, then do it for Samuel. He needs you. Samuel needs a living mother. I corrected him. If I am going to die anyway, I would rather attempt something desperate than sit here waiting to combust. Jacob flinched at the word. So you'll go? I looked at Samuel. My beautiful boy. The child I loved more than my own life. The child consuming that life simply by needing me. Yes. Relief flooded Jacob's face. I'll make every arrangement. On one condition. Anything. You do not come with me. His relief disappeared. You do not send letters. You do not ask for reports about my progress. I forced the words through the pain in my throat. I need distance from you. Real distance. I need to discover who I am without you. Without the spell. Without this palace. And I cannot do that while you're watching. Pain crossed his face. Still, he nodded. If that is what you need, it is. He moved toward the door, then stopped. For whatever it is worth. I said nothing. I do love you. His voice was low. I know you don't believe me. And I know I have no right to ask you to. But everything I said, everything I promised, it was true. Maybe. I looked at him. But true things can still be poisonous. He left. 1 week later, the carriage arrived beneath heavy morning fog. Samuel cried when I said goodbye. Not the helpless screaming of his infancy. These were the heartbroken sobs of a toddler old enough to understand that someone he loved was leaving. Mama, come back. He clung to my skirts. Mama, come back. I knelt and held him. Yes, sweet boy. I kissed his hair. Mama will come back. I need to go away for a little while, but I will return. I promise. Promise? He extended one tiny finger. A pinky promise. I had taught him it was the most sacred kind. I hooked my finger around his. Promise. Jacob stood in the nursery doorway. We had barely spoken since our last conversation. We did not speak now, but our eyes met. In his, I saw everything at once. Love, guilt, hope, despair. Then I climbed into the carriage. The palace disappeared behind me. The journey north lasted 3 days. Forests grew wilder. Villages became smaller. Eventually, the road climbed toward mountains, where winter never completely released its grip. The healer's cottage stood at the base of a cliff. Smoke curled from its chimney. She waited outside. Silver hair. Age impossible to guess. Eyes that seemed capable of looking through flesh and directly into a soul. You're the vessel. Not a question. Yes. You're dying. Yes. She nodded as though confirming a diagnosis. Come inside. We have work. Her name was Mara. The month that followed was the strangest of my life. She tested everything: blood, breathing, meditation. Then came stranger rituals. I sat inside circles of salt and herbs while Mara chanted words I did not understand. I held crystals that became hot or freezing against my palms. I drank bitter teas that blurred my vision. Through every test, Mara searched for one thing: a spark, a hidden reserve, anything that might give me enough power to survive the binding. Week after week, she found nothing. "You are remarkably empty." Mara said it without cruelty. "Like a cup that has never contained anything." I laughed bitterly. "I could have saved you a month." "Most people carry some magical residue." She ignored my sarcasm. "Echoes from their wolves. Inherited traces. You have silence." I already knew that. Perhaps. Mara studied me. "Some vessels appear empty because their magic is buried unusually deep. Sometimes extraordinary circumstances are necessary to awaken it. And mine?" I waited. "Is not buried." "So it appears." I laughed again. This time the sound broke. "So that is the answer. I die, and no one can change it." I didn't say that. I looked at her. "There may be another possibility." Hope moved before I could stop it. "Dangerous. Unprecedented. Probably insane. Tell me." Mara leaned forward. "The binding requires a vessel with little or no magic." I nodded. "But what if magic were given to the vessel?" I stared. "Not awakened from inside. Transferred from someone else. A donor?" "Yes." She studied my reaction. "If another wolf permanently transferred part of their power to you, it might give your body something with which to resist Samuel's magic. Instead of endlessly absorbing, you might create balance. Can that be done?" "In theory." Mara's mouth tightened. "No one has successfully attempted it with this particular binding. But the magical principle is sound." "What is the problem?" "Finding the donor." "Of course. The transfer is permanent." Mara continued. "They would lose that portion of their power forever, and the magic would need to be compatible with you." "How do we determine compatibility?" Her expression answered before her words did. "By testing wolves." "How many?" "Possibly every wolf in the kingdom." My hope collapsed. "So impossible." "Improbable," she corrected. "Not impossible." Then her gaze sharpened. "Unless you already know someone willing to sacrifice part of his power without knowing whether it will save you." Jacob entered my thoughts instantly. "No." Mara raised one eyebrow. "No." I repeated. "I am not asking him. Even if his magic were compatible?" "No." I stood. "I will not give Jacob the chance to play savior so he can forgive himself for what he did. Even if his sacrifice saved your life? Even then." Mara sighed. "You are as stubborn as you are empty." "Despite everything," I smiled. "Thank you." That was not praise. The month ended without a miracle. No dormant wolf, no hidden reserve, no certain solution, only confirmation. I was empty, broken, dying. The carriage came to return me to the palace. Mara walked me outside. Before I climbed in, she spoke. "The king's son." I looked back. "You love him more than anything." "Yes." "And the king?" I paused. I did. Then admitted. "Perhaps I still do. Under all the anger. I don't know." Mara stepped closer. "Then accept one piece of advice. From healer to patient?" "No." Her expression changed. "From vessel to vessel." I stared. "You?" "Long ago." "Different spell, different circumstances, but the same basic price." She gripped my shoulders. "Do not waste whatever time you have left being angry. Do not spend it feeding bitterness. Use it. Live, love, matter to the people who need you." "But you survived." I was confused. "You're standing here." "I survived." Mara nodded. But the woman I was before the binding did not. Her eyes became distant. I spent too much of my life furious about everything taken from me. I forgot to value what remained. She released me. By the time I learned how to let go, the person I was angry with was gone. I never said goodbye. She stepped away. Go home, Rena. Make peace where you can. However much time remains. Make it count. The journey back lasted 3 days. This time, I spent the road thinking, remembering, allowing feelings I had buried beneath anger to surface. I still loved Jacob. That was the painful truth. I loved how gentle he was with Samuel, his rare smiles, the man beneath the crown, the stone king who had learned to crack. I loved him despite his manipulation. And for the first time, I forced myself to consider the impossible question. If our positions had been reversed, if Samuel were dying, if I possessed the power to save him by using another person, would I truly have chosen differently? I wanted the answer to be yes. I wanted to believe I would choose honor, truth, consent, but I could not be certain, and somehow, that uncertainty mattered. On the 3rd evening, the palace appeared, white marble glowing in the sunset. Home. The word came naturally. I wondered when that had happened. When had the place where I was sent as a sacrifice become home? The carriage stopped at the servants' entrance. I climbed out. A footman I did not recognize hurried forward, then froze. Lady Rena? Yes. We weren't expecting. He swallowed. The king said you would be away another week. Plans changed. I looked toward the palace. Where is Prince Samuel? The nursery. He hesitated. But my lady, perhaps I should warn. Warn me about what? His discomfort deepened. Perhaps you should see. Fear tightened my stomach. I abandoned my trunk, ran through the corridors, past servants who called after me, up the stairs, toward the nursery. I opened the door, and stopped. Samuel sat on the carpet, playing, laughing, but a woman sat beside him, young, beautiful. Golden hair, perfect posture, the effortless grace of someone born into generations of nobility. Her hand rested lightly against Samuel's back, and beside the window stood Jacob, watching them. He turned when I entered. Something complicated crossed his face. Relief, guilt, something else. Rena. He straightened. You're early. Who is she? My voice remained calm despite the panic rising inside me. The woman looked up and smiled warmly. You must be Lady Rena. She stood. I've heard so much about you. She curtsied. Lady Elise. I've been helping with Prince Samuel while you were away. Her smile remained kind. The king thought he might benefit from another caretaker. Someone with a wolf. I finished the sentence. Elise's smile weakened. Yes, but please do not think I am trying to replace you. His Majesty has been very clear that you are irreplaceable. I'm only here to assist. Samuel finally noticed me. His entire face brightened. Mama. He scrambled to his feet. Mama back. He ran. I dropped to my knees and caught him. The moment his arms wrapped around me, the binding opened again. Warm magic moved into my body. Familiar. Deadly. I looked over Samuel's head. Jacob met my eyes. We need to talk. Yes. I held Samuel tighter. We do. Because looking at Lady Elise, beautiful, noble, powerful, wolf-blessed Lady Elise, I believed I understood exactly what had happened. Jacob was replacing me, not only as Samuel's caretaker, as everything. And the worst part was that I could not even blame him. I was dying. He was a king. Kings needed alliances, heirs, futures, not women destined to burn from the inside within a year. Perhaps this had always been the ending. Perhaps love had only blinded me to it. Chapter 8. The Moment of Choice. Lady Elise left the nursery with a graceful curtsy. I'll return in the morning. Samuel waved. Bye, Ellie. Something inside me cracked again. Ellie. He already had a special name for her. The moment the door closed, I turned toward Jacob. Explain. Let me put Samuel to bed. His voice was quiet. Then we will speak. I promise. I wanted answers immediately, but Samuel was rubbing his eyes, yawning. So I helped dress him for bed. Jacob lifted him, carried him to the cradle. When had Samuel grown so large? When had I missed so much? Jacob sat beside him and told a story. One of mine, the glass girl in the transparent kingdom. But Jacob had expanded it, added new details, made the story partly his, partly ours. Samuel fell asleep smiling, secure in the certainty that both his parents were beside him. Both his parents. When his breathing deepened, Jacob gestured toward the room next to the nursery. My room, though I had hardly used it during the previous months. We sat by the window. For a long time, no one spoke. She is your betrothed. It was not a question. No, Jacob answered immediately. She isn't. I looked at him. She is a candidate. His jaw tightened. Her family has been pushing for an alliance. Politically, it would be useful. But I have agreed to nothing. Yet. Jacob winced. Yet. He continued. You were gone for a month. Samuel still needed care. The court watched every move I made. Nobles sensed weakness and began circling. I needed to do something. So you found my replacement. I found help. His voice hardened. Someone who could learn how you care for Samuel. Someone who could reduce the burden on you. For when, he stopped. For when I die, I completed it. And Samuel needs someone whole. Someone with a wolf. Jacob's jaw tightened. Did Mara find anything? No, I cut him off. I am exactly what I have always been. Empty, broken, dying. Then I remembered. She did suggest one possibility. Jacob immediately focused. What? A donor. Someone could transfer part of their magic to me. His eyes sharpened. But finding someone compatible might mean testing every wolf in the kingdom. And even if we found one, that person would permanently lose part of their power. So it is essentially impossible. Jacob became very still. Then I'll do it. I stared. What? I'll transfer mine. He leaned forward. We test my compatibility. If it works, I give you what you need. No. Rena. No. I stood. You are the Alpha King. Your power protects the kingdom. Your strength keeps enemies from challenging the throne. I will not take that from you. My son's mother matters more to me than my power. I'm not his mother. The words hurt far more than I expected. I am a vessel keeping him alive. Lady Elise can become his mother. She has a wolf. She's noble. Appropriate. Everything I am not. She is not you. Jacob's voice broke through mine. I looked at him. She doesn't know his moods. She doesn't know which stories he needs. She doesn't... He stopped, then swallowed. Samuel asked for you every night. My breath caught. He woke crying. I held him. I told him stories. Elise tried too. She is kind, patient. She genuinely cares for him. Jacob's eyes became wet. But every night he cried, Mama, want Mama. His voice cracked. She is not you. Tears slid down my face. That does not change reality. I am dying. Whether it happens in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, eventually Samuel loses me. And you believe the solution is replacing yourself while you are still alive? His anger rose. Teaching my son to love someone else before you are even gone. Yes. The word nearly killed me. Because it is better for him to bond with her gradually than lose me suddenly and have no one. Better that he learns people can leave while he is young enough to adapt. I refuse to accept that. There must be another answer. There isn't. I began pacing. Jacob, I spent 1 month with one of the strongest healers in the kingdom. She was once a vessel herself. She survived, and even she could not find a way to save me. I faced him. This is reality. This is what you chose when you bound me to Samuel without my consent. Jacob recoiled as though struck. I know. His voice dropped. And I will regret that decision for the rest of my life. But I will not simply surrender you. Maybe you should. I stopped pacing. Maybe letting me go is the kindest thing you can do. I don't believe that. Of course not. A bitter laugh escaped. You are the Alpha King. Alpha Kings do not accept defeat. I stepped toward him. But I am not another territory for you to conquer. I am not a problem you can solve. I am a person. A woman who made the mistake of falling in love with a man who first saw her as a means to an end. That is not fair, isn't it? I met his eyes. Then be honest. Completely honest. I drew one painful breath. If the binding had not endangered my life, if I were not dying, would you still marry me? Jacob's face went still. Would you truly place a former Wolfless servant beside you as queen? Or eventually, when court pressure became unbearable, would you have done the politically useful thing and married a woman like Lady Elise? Silence. The silence answered. I loved you. Jacob's voice became rough. I love you now. That was never false. He closed his eyes. But, there it was. You're right. My chest tightened. If you were not dying, he forced himself onward. I probably would have eventually found a justification for ending our relationship. Every word cut. The court. The kingdom. The obligations of the crown. I would have found an excuse. His honesty hurt more than another lie. Thank you. My voice went cold. For finally telling me the truth. But that does not mean I want to lose you. Jacob stood. You changed me. You made me better. You taught me how to become Samuel's father. How to feel again. How to let people close. He approached. And yes, perhaps if circumstances were different, I would have been weak enough to let you go. But circumstances are not different. His voice became fierce. You are dying because of me, and I will use everything I possess to stop it. Even my power. I won't allow it. He stared. Your magic does not belong only to you. I spoke steadily. You are responsible for an entire kingdom. I will not weaken you and endanger everyone because I want to live. Then what do you want? Frustration broke through him. What am I supposed to do? Accept that you'll die? Stand there while you burn from the inside? Marry Elise and pretend you never mattered? I want you to let me choose. That silenced him. For once in my life, I looked directly at him. Stop deciding what is best for me. Stop trying to save me because you cannot tolerate losing. Let me live whatever time remains in the way I choose. And what do you choose? Mara's words returned. Do not waste your remaining time on anger. I want Samuel. Jacob's expression softened. I want to spend whatever time I have with him. Teach him. Watch him grow. Create enough memories that perhaps he will remember me after I am gone. I swallowed. And Jacob waited. I want to forgive you. His eyes widened. After everything? Not because you deserve forgiveness, I answered honestly, but because I don't want my last months consumed by anger. Mara was right. Holding pain forever is another kind of death. And apparently I already have enough dying to do. Jacob crossed the space between us. He pulled me into his arms. This time, I allowed it. I sank into his warmth, his strength, the scent I knew too well, and I grieved what we might have been if our story had begun differently. I don't deserve you. His words disappeared into my hair. No. Despite everything, I almost smiled. You really don't. We stayed there a long time, both of us understanding that we were saying goodbye to a future that perhaps had never truly existed. Eventually, Jacob pulled back. His hands framed my face. If I find another way, anyway, I will still try to save you, even if you hate me for doing it. I know. I gave him a sad smile. That is what makes you both a good king and a terrible person. His own smile appeared, broken. Can we begin again? What do you mean? Not as lovers. His voice tightened. Not what we were. As parents. Friends. Something that hurts less. We can try. It was not enough. Not for either of us. But it was what we had. The next 3 months settled into a new rhythm. Lady Elise came every morning. To my frustration, she was genuinely kind, patient with Samuel, respectful toward me. She never attempted to take control, never behaved as though my approaching death gave her permission to replace me before it happened. Eventually, we developed a strange partnership. I managed Samuel's difficult moments, his rare shifting episodes, his nighttime stories. Elise handled public events, court presentations, playdates with noble children. We were preparing Samuel to love 2 maternal figures. Knowing one might not remain much longer, Jacob mostly kept his distance. He still visited Samuel each night, but the intimacy between us was gone. What remained was professional, careful, painfully sad. Meanwhile, the magic inside me continued growing. Pressure behind my ribs became constant. Heat lived permanently inside my veins. Some mornings I woke to find my fingers glowing faintly, power searching for a way out. The old books said the final stage arrived quickly. A vessel could function normally one day. Then pain began. Within hours, sometimes minutes, the body ignited. I tried not to think about it. I focused on Samuel. Stories. Memories. Living instead of dying. Then came the announcement. I was walking through the palace gardens with Samuel when servants suddenly began hurrying toward the main courtyard. Nobles followed. Excitement moved through the palace. Something about it made me uneasy. I lifted Samuel and joined the gathering crowd. Jacob stood atop the main steps in formal royal robes. Advisors surrounded him. And beside him stood Lady Elise. She wore silver and blue, radiant, perfect. "What is happening?" I asked a nearby servant. "The king is making an announcement, my lady." She could barely hide her excitement. About the future of the kingdom. My stomach dropped. Jacob's gaze found me in the crowd. I saw apology, regret, and resolve. He was going to announce an engagement to Elise. "People of the realm," Jacob began. His voice carried across the courtyard. "Today I stand before you to secure the future of our kingdom." Samuel shifted in my arms. As you know, Prince Samuel has grown stronger every day through the dedicated care of those entrusted with him. Jacob's eyes touched mine for 1 second. But a prince requires more than care. He needs stability. He needs family. He needs... The explosion cut him off. The outer wall erupted. Fire, stone, screams. Everything happened too quickly. Armed figures poured through the breach. Guards rushed forward. Weapons flashed. Someone was attacking the palace. Samuel. I crushed him against my chest. Fear immediately triggered his magic. I felt power surge through our bond. Jacob leaped from the steps. He shifted in midair. A massive black wolf landed where the king had been. His guards transformed around him. They collided with the attackers. But these enemies were not ordinary soldiers. Magic crackled around several of them. Spells gathered in their hands. Then I saw one warrior running directly toward me, toward Samuel. This was not a random assault. They wanted the air. I ran. Samuel clung to me. Behind us came snarls, screams, weapons, and explosions. I did not look back. Rena. Lady Elise appeared beside me. Her face was pale, determined. "This way." She pointed toward the palace. "There's a safe room." A bolt of energy flew past my head. Heat scorched my skin. I threw myself sideways, turned my body so Samuel struck nothing but me when we hit the ground. Pain exploded through my shoulder. Still, I did not let go. An attacker stood over us. Magic glowed in his hands. A triumphant smile crossed his face. The wolfless vessel. His eyes moved toward Samuel. And the bastard prince. His hands rose. 2 problems. 1 solution. Death came toward us. Then Lady Elise hit him from the side. Her body was already transforming. Wolf and woman collided with the attacker. "Run!" she screamed. "Get him to safety!" I ran. Through the palace doors. Down corridors I knew by heart. Toward the nursery. Samuel had shifted completely now. A sobbing wolf pup in my arms. His magic poured into me. Too much. Too quickly. Pressure rose inside my body. The dam was breaking. Not now. My breath came in gasps. Please. Not now. I reached the nursery. Slammed the door. Threw the bolt. Then collapsed against it with Samuel in my arms. We're safe. The lie came automatically. You're safe. Samuel shifted back into human form. His small body shook with sobs. Mama scared. I know. Mama hurt. I looked down. Blood soaked my clothing. The spell had clipped my shoulder and left a blistering burn. But the wound was not the real danger. My hands were glowing. Not faintly. Brightly. Power burned beneath my skin. My breath stopped. The final stage. It had begun. Something slammed against the nursery door. The wood shook. Not Jacob. Not palace guards. The attackers had followed. I had minutes. Perhaps less. Before the door failed. Before they killed Samuel. Before my body burned itself apart. I looked desperately around the nursery. My eyes landed on the books. All those texts Jacob had given me. Magic. Bindings. Vessels. Transformation. A half-remembered passage came back. Vessels under extreme magical saturation. A catalyst created at the threshold of death. Impossible transformations becoming briefly possible when destruction was imminent. Madness. It would not work. Could not work. But I was dying anyway. What could failure still take from me? I set Samuel carefully on the floor. Sweet boy. He looked at me through tears. I need you to be very brave. Can you do that for Mama? He nodded. I kissed his forehead. No matter what happens, remember something. Mama loves you. Papa loves you. You are precious. You are perfect. You are loved. Mama loved. Mama loved. The door shook. Wood splintered. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in my life, I deliberately reached inward for magic. Not Samuel's. Not the power I had absorbed. Mine. I reached beyond the silence. Beyond emptiness. Beyond 23 years of certainty that nothing lived there. My wolf. Please. If you exist. If you have been sleeping. I need you. Samuel needs you. Jacob needs you. I need you. Nothing. The door cracked again. Please. I reached deeper. And then, something moved. Not Samuel's magic. Not the binding. Something inside me. Something that had waited 23 years for the correct moment to answer. Not a wolf. Not exactly. Something else. The nursery door exploded inward. An attacker stepped through. Weapon raised. I opened my eyes. Golden light filled my vision. Get away from my son. My voice carried a power I had never possessed. The attacker laughed. You're wolfless. His spell formed. You're nothing. You're wrong. Magic rose inside me. Not Samuel's. Mine. I was never wolfless. The transformation began. Not human into wolf. Something reversed. Older. Primal. The magic I had absorbed for months suddenly found a path. A purpose. A form. Light filled me. Pure magical energy contained inside the outline of a human body. Power that had accumulated for months now had somewhere to go. The attacker screamed and released his spell. I lifted one hand. Energy poured outward. Not destruction. Protection. A shield formed around Samuel. Around the nursery. Around everything I loved. The spell struck my shield. And shattered. You cannot hurt him. My voice seemed layered with echoes. You cannot hurt anyone I protect. The attacker stumbled backward, then fled. I stood glowing in the ruined nursery. For the first time I understood why I never shifted, why I always felt empty, why no healer ever found ordinary wolf magic inside me. I was not meant to hold my own power in the way wolves did. I was a conduit. A true vessel. Not a prison for magic. A transformer. I could take raw, uncontrolled energy and turn it into something else. Something safe. Something useful. Something protective. The burning inside me disappeared. The unbearable pressure released. The magic that should have killed me finally had a purpose. The light faded. I returned fully to human form. Not from a wolf. From energy itself. And for the first time in 23 years I felt completely right inside my own body. Samuel stared, his eyes enormous. Mama glowy. A laugh escaped through my tears. Yes, baby. I dropped beside him. Mama is glowy. The ruined doorway burst open. I turned. Jacob stood there in black wolf form. Blood stained his muzzle. He shifted immediately. Human again. Fierce, breathing hard. His eyes found Samuel, then me, then the fading light still glowing beneath my skin. Rena. His voice broke. You? He stared. You shifted. Not exactly. I almost laughed again. But I am not dying. Jacob crossed the room in 3 strides. He wrapped me in his arms, held me so tightly I could barely breathe. I thought I lost you. His voice shook. When I saw you running, when I couldn't reach you, I'm here. I held him. We're both safe. He pulled back. His hands framed my face. What happened? What are you? I am still discovering that. I looked toward Samuel. But I think I have always been this. Not wolfless. Different. Jacob listened. A vessel that does not simply absorb magic. I transform it. Use it. Understanding entered his eyes. Then the binding almost killed you because you were never supposed to remain passive. You were meant to channel the magic. Yes. And you never knew. Not until I had no choice. Behind us, Samuel had fallen asleep on the carpet, exhausted by terror, shifting, and magic. He looked peaceful. Jacob's eyes filled when he saw him. Then he looked back at me. I'm sorry. For all of it. Lying. Manipulating you. Nearly killing you because of my ignorance and desperation. I know. I stopped him gently. We will deal with that. Later. His expression tightened. Right now, I need one answer. Anything. The announcement. Jacob went still. What were you going to say about Lady Elise? I held his gaze. About the future of the kingdom. His mouth curved. Sad. Hopeful. I was going to announce that Elise had agreed to become Samuel's official guardian. I blinked. Guardian? His aunt. Relief moved through me so quickly I almost felt dizzy. I wanted to give her a formal role in Samuel's life. The nobles had been demanding stability. I needed to prove his future was protected. Jacob stepped closer. But I was never going to marry her. He looked at me. Rena, I never stopped hoping you would survive. I never stopped wishing the future could still be you. But I am still not a wolf. Whatever you are. His voice became firm. Vessel. Conduit. Transformer. You are exactly who Samuel needs. His eyes softened. And exactly who I want. I wanted to believe him. wanted to throw away every hurt, every betrayal, every fear. We had been given a second chance neither of us expected, but the first version of our love had been built on secrets. I would not build the second one the same way. We need to begin again. Jacob nodded immediately. Anything? No. I shook my head. Really begin again. No secrets. No manipulation. No desperate spell forcing our lives together. Just two people choosing each other because they want to. His eyes held mine. Yes. And I need time. How much? Time to learn what I am. What I can do. Time to repair what broke between us. I swallowed. Time to know what we feel is love and not only relief that I survived. Jacob waited. How much time? I thought. 1 year. He blinked. Ask me again, in 1 year. The question that needs answering. A smile slowly transformed his face. The riddle? The riddle. He stepped closer. What is something that, once given, can never truly be taken back? I smiled. Something that becomes stronger with time. He continued. Something that breaks only when held too tightly. A promise. My voice softened. But I am not ready to make that promise yet. Then I wait. Jacob's answer came instantly. However long it takes. He kissed me. Gentle. Careful. Full of hope instead of desperation. I kissed him back. For the first time, the future tasted like possibility instead of death. The attack ended within the hour. The surviving assassins were captured. Interrogation revealed a coup organized by a rival family that had never accepted Jacob's rule. Their plan was simple. Kill Samuel. Kill me. Destroy the stability of the royal line. Then seize power during the chaos. They failed. Lady Elise survived too. Her wounds were serious, but she recovered over the following weeks. Jacob kept his promise. She became Samuel's official guardian. His aunt. And eventually she became my friend. 2 women who loved the same boy, raising him together instead of competing for him. 3 months later, Mara came to the palace. She tested my new abilities. Watched me channel magic, studied the changes again and again. Finally, she gave me a diagnosis no book contained. You are the first known vessel to transform the nature of the binding instead of dying from it. I stared. You may change everything we know about magic, she continued, especially people we assume are powerless. You may save countless lives. I looked across the room toward Samuel. I only wanted to save one. Mara smiled. A rare sight. Well, you did that too. The year passed both slowly and quickly. Samuel grew. His shifting became completely controlled. He became a bright child who loved stories and could make almost everyone around him smile. Jacob and I rebuilt our relationship one careful piece at a time. We courted properly, chaperoned walks, formal dinners, conversations without crisis hanging over every word. We learned who we were when death was not chasing us, and I learned what my power could do. I could take dangerous magic and make it safe. Absorb curses and reshape them, turn harmful power into protection. I was a shield, a guardian, a transformer of pain into purpose, exactly what I had always been meant to become. On the first anniversary of my transformation, I sat in the royal library reading with Samuel. Jacob entered. He wore formal clothes. Something in his expression made my heart begin racing. Samuel. Jacob looked at him. Could you give your mother and me a moment? Samuel looked between us, then grinned with entirely too much understanding for his age. Papa ask Mama question. Jacob smiled. Yes. Papa is going to ask Mama a question. Mama say yes. Samuel announced it as an order, then ran away laughing to find Lady Elise. I stood opposite Jacob across a table covered in books. A question? A riddle. He corrected, then walked around the table. He took my hands. His were trembling. Rena of House Ashfeld. His voice became solemn. Vessel, transformer, mother of my child, keeper of my heart. I have a question for you. I'm listening. What is something that, once given, can never truly be taken back? My heart hammered. Something that grows stronger with time. His eyes never left mine. Something that breaks only when held too tightly. A promise. My voice remained steady. The answer is a promise. Jacob breathed in. Then promise me. Promise me forever. Promise that whatever comes, we face it together. His hands tightened around mine. Promise you will be my queen. Not because I require you, not because Samuel requires you, but because you choose it. Because we choose one another. I thought about everything. The lies, the truth, the binding, the betrayal, the death I had almost suffered, the transformation, the slow repair. I remembered the girl I had once been. Certain she was worthless. Certain broken meant lesser. Then I looked at the woman I had become. Someone who turned pain into protection. Someone who saved lives by accepting burdens and transforming them. Someone who finally understood that difference was not defect. I promise. Jacob's breath caught. I choose you. I choose us. I smiled through tears. I choose this impossible, complicated, beautiful life we are building. Jacob reached into his pocket. The moonstone ring rested in his palm. His mother's ring, the one he had once given me before everything shattered. May I? Yes. He slid it onto my finger. Then he kissed me. Deep, slow, certain. This time, no secret stood beneath the promise. When we separated, Samuel ran into the library. Lady Elise followed, smiling. Mama say yes? He looked between us. Mama said yes. Samuel shouted happily and threw himself toward us. We caught him together. The three of us collapsed into laughter. Messy, imperfect, real. Tell story, Samuel demanded. Story about Mama and Papa. Jacob looked at me. Everything we had survived lived inside his eyes. Once upon a time, he began. I took his hand. There was a girl who believed she was broken, and a king who believed he was stone. Samuel leaned forward eagerly. And they learned. Jacob and I said together, that broken things can still be beautiful. That stone can crack open and let light through. That sometimes the hardest roads lead to the most precious places. Samuel frowned thoughtfully. The end? I pulled both my boys closer. No. I smiled. The beginning. Because that was what I had finally learned. Pain could transform. Betrayal could be forgiven without being forgotten. People could break and still rebuild. Hope could survive even after you tried to kill it. We were damaged, scarred, imperfect, and exactly enough. Epilogue. The Glass Kingdom. 5 years later, impossible flowers bloomed throughout the palace gardens. I discovered by accident that my ability worked on more than dangerous magic. It affected living things too. Where I walked often, where my power seeped gently into the earth, plants changed. Roses bloomed through winter. Fruit trees produced throughout the year. Healing herbs grew stronger than they should. The gardeners called it a blessing. I called it a side effect. Samuel called it Mama's magic garden. At 6 years old, he was far too clever for his own good. And naturally, his name became the official one. I was walking through that garden with one hand resting over my stomach. 7 months pregnant. Finally. For years, Mara and other magic practitioners had studied how pregnancy might interact with the transformative power constantly moving through my body. Eventually, we found a safe way. The healers assured us the baby and I were healthy. A girl, our daughter. They believed she would have a unique kind of magic, shaped by everything I carried. I could hardly wait to meet her. Mama! Samuel's voice came from behind a hedge, then running feet. He appeared wearing a formal tunic already stained with grass, even though someone had dressed him less than an hour earlier. Mama, come quickly. What happened? The ambassador from the Southern Isles brought his daughter. Samuel spoke so quickly the words collided. She can't shift either, and her parents think she's broken. But I told them about you. How you're the strongest person in the kingdom even without a wolf. And now they want to meet you. I smiled and ruffled his dark hair. It looked more like Jacob's every year. Slow down. I laughed. Take one breath. Samuel obeyed. Barely. Can you help her? He looked serious now. Can you show her she isn't broken? I can try. I let him take my hand. But Samuel, remember something. What? Not every wolfless person is like me. I allowed him to guide me toward the palace. Some people may truly have no magic at all. And that is perfectly fine. They are not less valuable. I know. He sounded deeply offended that I doubted him. You tell me that all the time. Then his expression changed. But Mama, she looked really sad. The way you look sometimes when you think Papa and I are not watching. I stopped. What do you mean? The way you looked in your old drawings. My old drawings? Samuel nodded. The ones from before you came here. Papa showed me. My throat tightened. You drew yourself like a ghost. As if you weren't completely real. His brown eyes looked up at me. But you were always real, Mama. You were only waiting to find us. Emotion tightened my throat. When did you become so wise? I have always been wise. Samuel answered seriously. I also like jumping into mud and annoying Aunt Elise. He shrugged. People are complicated. I laughed. Purely. Freely. Then let him pull me toward the palace. The ambassador's family waited in one of the formal receiving rooms. Ambassador Christos stood stiffly beside his wife, Lady Maris. Between them stood a little girl of perhaps 9 or 10. Thin. Dark hair. Dark eyes. She tried to make herself as small as possible. I recognized that posture. I had seen it in every mirror for 23 years. Jacob was already there. Formal, but warm. Trying to make the family comfortable. When I entered, his face immediately brightened. The cold king I had first met no longer existed. Not completely. That power was still there when the kingdom required it. But he no longer hid his heart from everyone. Ambassador Christos. Jacob gestured toward me. Lady Maris. May I present my wife, Queen Rena? He smiled. The Transformer. That had become my official title. Not the Wolfless Queen. Not the vessel. The Transformer. The woman whose existence had forced the kingdom to reconsider everything it believed about power and worth. Your Majesty. The ambassador bowed deeply. His wife followed. After a moment, their daughter did too. Please. I smiled. There is no need for so much formality. I looked toward the girl. Prince Samuel says your daughter has a question for me. Lyra, her father said softly. The girl looked up. Her voice was barely audible. I don't want to trouble your Majesty. You are not troubling me. I carefully lowered myself until we were at the same height. My pregnant stomach made the movement awkward. And I think I know the question. Lyra's eyes widened. You want to know whether there is hope for someone like you. Her eyes filled. Someone who cannot shift. She nodded. Everyone says I'm defective. Her voice broke. That I bring shame to my family. That I can never become anything important because I don't have a wolf. They are wrong. I answered simply. And I am proof. But you are special. Lyra's tears spilled. You have magic. You're the Transformer. I don't have anything. You have yourself. She stared at me. And Lyra. I took her hand. That is more than enough. She said nothing. I did not discover my magic until I was 23. And even then, it emerged only because circumstances forced me to use it. Before that, I felt exactly as you do now. I squeezed her fingers. I believed I was defective. I believed I would never matter. What changed? Her voice was a whisper. I stopped trying to become what everyone else expected. I smiled sadly. I stopped measuring myself against wolves. And I started asking what I could do as myself. Lyra listened. For me, being unable to shift eventually turned out to be connected to abilities no normal wolf possessed. You may discover magic one day. You may not. I made sure she heard the next words. But either way, you still have value. You still have purpose. You simply have to stop searching for that purpose inside other people's expectations and start searching in yourself. How? The desperation in her question broke my heart. By finding the things that make you feel real instead of invisible. Maybe stories, gardens, music, numbers, building things, solving problems, whatever makes you feel like yourself. I brushed one tear from her cheek. Different does not mean less. It only means your road may look different from theirs. Lyra stared at me, then suddenly threw her arms around my neck. She sobbed. I held her. This little girl who looked so much like the person I once was. And I whispered everything I had desperately needed someone to tell me at her age. You are not broken. You are not a mistake. You are exactly who you are meant to be, and the world needs you as yourself. When her parents eventually left, they thanked us again and again. Samuel hugged Lyra, then announced very seriously, Wolfless people are actually the coolest. Lyra almost smiled. My mama defeated assassins without even turning into a wolf. Samuel puffed out his chest. Try doing that with only one wolf form. Jacob coughed to hide laughter. Samuel continued. I bet you can do amazing things too. Lyra left the palace, walking slightly straighter, head slightly higher. Would those words be enough? Would she eventually discover her own path? I could not know, but I had planted one seed. Sometimes, one seed of hope is all a person needs. That evening, Samuel went to bed, and the palace quieted. Jacob and I sat together in our private chambers. After our marriage, he had given me the Queen's suite. I still kept my old room beside the nursery. I refused to give it up. It reminded me where everything began. You were beautiful today. Jacob rested one hand over my belly. Our daughter kicked beneath his palm. I spent half the day in garden dirt. I looked down at my dress. I probably smell like fertilizer. Still beautiful. He smiled, then grew serious. Rena, do you know what I see when I look at you? A woman too pregnant to see her own feet. Jacob laughed. That sound had once been so rare. Now it lived freely in our home. I see the woman who saved my son. His expression softened. The woman who saved me. The woman who taught this entire kingdom that power can exist in forms we never imagined. That the person everyone dismisses may someday become the person everyone needs. Careful. I nudged him. Someone might hear you and think you've become soft. I have become soft. Jacob answered without shame. At least here. With you. With our family. He kissed me. Soft. Sweet. I regret none of it. Not even the nobles who still complain about a queen without a wolf, especially not them. His voice became firm. Let them complain. You have done more for this kingdom in 5 years than most rulers accomplish in a lifetime. You changed the way we understand magic. Worth. Who deserves opportunity? We changed it. I corrected him. Together. He nodded. Together. Our daughter kicked again. Harder. We both laughed. She will be trouble. I predicted. With you and Samuel teaching her. Jacob shook his head. Absolutely. Then he became thoughtful. Are you afraid? About her magic? A little. I admitted it. But mostly I'm curious. I covered his hand with mine. Whatever she is. Whatever she can do. We help her understand it. We never allow her to believe she is broken. We give her what neither of us had. What? Acceptance. I smiled. From the beginning. The beginning. Jacob repeated the words. You said that after I proposed, that our marriage would not be an ending, but a beginning. And I was right. I looked around us. I looked around us. Think about everything we built. The research center where vessels learn how to channel magic instead of dying from absorbing it. The scholarship program for Wolfless children. The laws protecting people with unusual forms of magic. The gardens producing enough healing herbs for half the city. The family. Jacob interrupted quietly. I looked at him. Do not forget the family. Never. I rested my head against his shoulder. That is the most important thing. For a while, we sat without speaking. His hand on my belly. My head on him. Our daughter moving between us. Life. Hope. A future neither of us could have imagined when I first walked into the palace as an expendable servant. Rena? Yes? Thank you. For what? For not giving up. His voice became quiet. For forgiving me when I did not deserve it. For choosing to stay. For fighting. For taking everything damaged between us and helping transform it into something better. I looked up. Thank you for giving me a reason to fight. For showing me I was worth saving. For being patient when I had to learn trust all over again. Always. He kissed my forehead. For however long forever lasts. I'm yours. I smiled. Broken pieces included. You aren't broken anymore. No. I considered it. But I will always carry the girl who believed she was. Jacob listened. And I'm glad. She is why I understand Lyra, why I can recognize people who feel invisible. She is part of my story. I would not erase her even if I could. Jacob kissed my temple. I love every part of you, every version you have ever been. I love you too. I leaned against him. Even the parts of you still learning not to turn back into stone. Night deepened outside our windows. Our daughter moved inside me. Somewhere else in the palace, Samuel slept whatever dreams 6-year-old boys dream. This was my kingdom now, not the land beyond the palace, not the throne. This, my family, my second chance, the life I had nearly died before seeing. I remembered the 19-year-old girl standing beneath full moons, waiting for a transformation that never came. The girl convinced she would never be enough. If I could return to her, I knew exactly what I would say. You are enough. You always were. Your power is not measured by whether you have a wolf. It lives in your heart. Your courage, your ability to hold damaged things and help make them whole. One day you will save lives. Change lives. Build something beautiful from everything that hurt you. One day you will matter more than you can imagine. So keep going. One more day. One more painful night. One more moment of doubt. Your story is not ending. It is only beginning. Maybe somehow that younger version of me could hear the echo. Maybe somewhere across all those lost years she could feel a future waiting. Love, family, purpose, and understand that every broken piece would someday lead here. The next morning, before sunrise, Samuel burst into our chambers. As usual. Too excited about being alive to allow his parents to sleep. Mama, Papa! I opened one eye. The sun is coming up. Samuel bounced beside the bed. And if you do not come right now, I'm going to miss it. Jacob groaned. I laughed, then attempted to stand. Jacob immediately helped me because pregnancy had made quick movement nearly impossible. We followed Samuel to the balcony. The sky was turning gold. Pink. Violet. One of those sunrises that can make a person believe in magic even after learning exactly how magic works. Look! Samuel pointed toward the clouds. See the light? A golden ray broke through gray. That is like your transformation, Mama. I looked down at him. What? You take something dark. He grinned. And make it glow. I wrapped one arm around his shoulders. When exactly did you become a poet? I have always been a poet. He gave me a deeply serious expression. I also like mud puddles. Jacob laughed, then wrapped both of us in his arms. And there we stood, a broken king, a transformed vessel, and the child we had nearly lost. Our family, our kingdom, our beginning. Somewhere, perhaps in a distant village, another girl who believed she was worthless because she could not shift might have been watching that same sunrise. And maybe she felt something, a small spark, a whisper, hold on. Your story is not finished. Because transformation was never truly about changing yourself into what other people wanted. It was about finally understanding that what you had always been could be enough, could be beautiful, could be exactly what the world needed. Like light breaking through clouds, like love surviving betrayal, like hope refusing to die, like us. I had once believed brokenness made me worthless. Instead, it gave me the ability to recognize broken things, to hold them, to help make them whole. I had become a mother, a queen, a transformer of pain into purpose, and the very thing everyone had once called my defect became the reason I was irreplaceable. That is the promise I would give to anyone who has ever believed they were not enough. You are. You always have been. Your strength may not look like anyone else's. Your purpose may take longer to find. But your story is still waiting for you. So hold on. Keep hoping. Keep becoming. Because sometimes what feels like an ending is only the place where your real beginning starts.